Welcome to part 2 of the critical hit system. If you encounter any issues or have feedback, please let me know in the comments rather than just disliking the video. Your input helps me improve, and I'm here to make sure you have the best experience possible. Enjoy the content.
Chapter 26. Myriad Manifestations Pavilion. A neutral institution established by the dynasty, mainly responsible for the change and transmission of the list. Xianxia City is a big city. Naturally, there is a branch of Myriad Manifestations Pavilion here. So many people will choose to challenge the masters on the list at Myriad Manifestations Pavilion. At this time, the square outside Myriad Manifestations Pavilion was already crowded. It was boring at ordinary times, and it was hard to miss a good show. And in Xianxia City, many family leaders also came out. Do you think Yuan Nongbai can succeed in the challenge? Someone asked in the crowd. Of course he can. Yuan Nongbai is a disciple of the academy, and he is in the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm. How could he not beat Feng Qinghe? I don't think so. If Yuan Nongbai is so powerful, why hasn't he been on the list until now? That's right. Not all geniuses in the world are interested in the hidden dragon list. That's right. Many people nodded. Besides, Yuan Nongbai is a disciple of the Chang'e Inner Palace, and his strength should be stronger than Feng Qinghe. In the eyes of the world, the training ability of the academy has always been impeccable, far better than the sect. You were thinking many years ago. The sect today is not much worse than the academy. Someone retorted, look at the major lists. The positions occupied by the sect masters have reached 1/3, or even more. As soon as this was said, it was quiet for a while. Indeed, judging from the list, the sect's power is far better than before. It can no longer be viewed with the same eyes as before. A restaurant not far from the square. The 3rd floor, which is usually bustling, is now empty. There are only 7 people sitting here. From the clothes, you can see that they are extraordinary. Interesting. I didn't expect there would be a banquet for entertainment today. Among the 7 people, a handsome young man in a python robe slowly put down the teacup in his hand, with a faint smile on his lips. Yuan Nongbai should be the younger generation of the Yuan family. The handsome young man turned his eyes and looked at the middle-aged man next to him. This is the head of the Yuan family, one of the most powerful martial Dao in Xianxia City. At this moment, he was sitting respectfully. When he heard the question, he stood up and said with a smile, the younger generation is young and energetic. I hope I didn't bother His Royal Highness the 9th Prince. How could it be? It's just right to see the style of the younger generation of the Yuan family. The 9th Prince smiled. He has been in Xianxia City for several days. It's a pity that the most important blood-brave Marquis is not here. According to secret information, it will take some time, so he can only focus on other royal families. Although the 7 counties of Chang'e are far away from the imperial capital, because they are adjacent to the open sea in the east and Wugu in the south, the martial arts are strong and many strong people have emerged. It's worth his effort to win them over. Hearing this, the other heads of the families looked at each other and complained in their hearts. Why didn't I think of this? Since you have decided to stand on the side of the 9th Prince, you should let your younger generation come here to show your face. The royal families in Xianxia City have never been very interested in the list, especially the hidden dragon list, because they don't lack that. No wonder Yuan Nongbai suddenly appeared today and made such a scene. He is really scheming. It is said that Feng Qinghe's master is a supreme elder of the profound Heaven Sword sect. Master Yuan should not choose the wrong opponent. The head of the Wang family said quietly, just a month ago, my son met the 15th on the hidden dragon list during his training and won easily. The head of the Yuan family immediately stroked his beard and said confidently and proudly, it's just that it hasn't been made public. Hearing this, the head of the Wang family immediately stopped talking. Feng Qinghe is only ranked 17th. He can even beat the 15th, so Feng Qinghe is naturally no problem. It can only be said that he is worthy of being an old fox. Think twice before doing anything, and make enough considerations and preparations. Around the square, more and more people came. Luo Mu and Cheng Qingman also came here. Junior brother Luo, junior sister Cheng. Lin Ruffing waved. Zhang Hai was also there. The two were just shopping. When they heard someone challenge the masters on the Qianlong list, they naturally wouldn't miss it. It's a coincidence. Cheng Qingman said when the 4 people met. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be Yuan Nongbai. Lin Ruffing said excitedly. Hasn't he always been practicing hard and has no interest in the list? Why would he take the initiative to challenge others? I don't know. Cheng Qingman shook his head. Do you think Yuan Nongbai can win? Lin Ruffing said. In the inner palace, Yuan Nongbai's strength is unquestionable. He is one of the top ones. Maybe only junior brother Luo can fight him. Cheng Qingman said. Yuan Nongbai also practiced profound rank middle-grade martial arts. I don't know much about Feng Qinghe, so it's hard to judge. Cheng Qingman continued. I hope Yuan Nongbai can win. He picked a genius from any other family, but Feng Qinghe is his opponent. Doesn't he know that Feng Qinghe is backed by the profound Heaven Sword sect, which has become more and more influential in recent years? If he loses, it's not just his face that will be lost. Zhang Hai hit the nail on the head. Cheng Qingman and Lin Rufeng were stunned. Yes, it seems that this is not a simple challenge. Luo Mu listened and looked at the square. At this time, two figures fell into the square. The originally noisy crowd gradually quieted down, because the main character came on stage. Yuan Nongbai, you are so brave that you dare to challenge me. Feng Qinghe carried a long sword on his back. He had a thin face. His narrow eyes were like a poisonous snake, and the first impression he gave people was that he was not easy to mess with. Stop talking nonsense. I want your position today. Yuan Nongbai held a broadsword, like a huge door panel. He actually had no interest in today's challenge, but his father asked him to choose Feng Qinghe, and he had no choice. It is said that His Highness the Ninth Prince hated the sect power very much. If he could defeat the sect prodigy, then the status of the Yuan family in the heart of the Ninth Prince would be greatly improved in the future. This involves the future of the family and even his own future. Besides, there was actually a conflict between him and Feng Qinghe, so he might as well solve it today. Even the 15th ranked was easily defeated by him, not to mention Feng Qinghe, who was ranked 17th. So there is no suspense in today's battle. Chapter 27. You are still as arrogant as ever. Feng Qinghe sneered. Everyone thinks that only the academy is the real sacred land for cultivation. Anyone who is a disciple of the academy must be stronger than others. Today he will take this opportunity to defeat Yuan Nongbai and prove to the world that the academy is a thing of the past. At the same time, he will promote his own sect. I believe that the master will reward him well in the future. Xianxia City is full of aristocratic families and geniuses. Half of them choose profound Heaven Sword sect, which is a huge amount of fresh blood. It is enough to make a sect prosper for 100 years, or even 1,000 years. The competition begins. The deacon of Myriad Manifestations Pavilion came out with an expressionless face, raised his right hand high, and then swung it down heavily. Boom. Almost instantly, Yuan Nongbai made a move. The ground under his feet exploded. His body was like thunder. Soon he came in front of Feng Qinghe. The broadsword in his hand was like an ancient mountain, extremely heavy. The moment he lifted it, he felt suffocated. Once he was hit by it, he felt like he would be cut in two. Feng Qinghe's expression remained unchanged, and he even looked cold. He just jumped back lightly to avoid the sword blade. Then the long sword behind him was unsheathed. Dense sword shadows stabbed out. The sharp power surged. Yuan Nongbai raised his eyebrows slightly. He quickly put away his sword to block. Clang, clang, clang. For a moment, sparks flew everywhere. The sword shadow was so powerful that he even took several steps back. Profound rank middle-grade swordsmanship, Yuan Nongbai said slowly. He and Feng Qinghe were both in the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm. Only this kind of swordsmanship could shock him back several steps. He was prepared for this. Generally speaking, those who can be on the Hidden Dragon list are basically those who have practiced profound rank middle-grade martial arts. The difference is the level of attainment. What surprised him was that Feng Qinghe's swordsmanship had not only reached perfection, but should also be quite superior in the profound rank middle grade. The power would never be lower than his swordsmanship. It might even be stronger. Surprised? There's something more surprising. Feng Qinghe's mouth curled up slightly. The moment he finished speaking, Feng Qinghe's figure became blurred, leaving only a few residual images. In an instant, he was in the middle of Yuan Nongbai's body. Not good. Yuan Nongbai's face suddenly changed. He didn't expect Feng Qinghe's speed to be so fast. This is definitely a very high-grade body movement. At least profound rank middle grade. Feng Qinghe actually mastered 2 profound rank middle grade martial arts. For a martial artist in the true acupoint realm, such martial arts are extremely difficult to practice, so even a genius like him only practiced 1. Feng Qinghe's talent is similar to his. How could he practice 2? For a moment, Yuan Nongbai was filled with mixed feelings, and his initial confidence was gone. Boom. Although Yuan Nongbai barely avoided it, he was still hit on the arm by a sword, bleeding immediately. Feng Qinghe would not miss the opportunity to hit the man when he was down, and used his body advantage to attack him continuously, with sword energy everywhere. Finally, bang! Yuan Nongbai's tall body was knocked out of the square, and fell heavily to the ground, dying. Seeing this scene, the originally quiet surroundings suddenly set off an uproar. Many people even showed disbelief. Yuan Nongbai was defeated, and he was defeated so quickly. I thought it would be a wonderful battle. Who would have thought it would be completely one-sided? As both were in the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm, Feng Qinghe's strength could be said to completely crush Yuan Nongbai. The winner is the profound Heaven Sword sect Feng Qinghe. The deacon of the Myriad Manifestations Pavilion announced expressionlessly. A disciple of the academy is just so. Feng Qinghe swung his right hand, and the long sword returned to the scabbard behind him. He glanced at the whole audience, and the corners of his mouth rose. Hearing this, Cheng Qingman and the other two were immediately furious. In the imperial territory, the academy has always been a sacred land for cultivation, and a place that is admired by thousands of people. As disciples of the academy, the three of them naturally share honor and disgrace. Never allow others to despise. Is this the master on the hidden dragon list? He is unexpectedly strong. Luo Mu narrowed his eyes slightly. He actually mastered 2 profound rank middle grade martial arts. Although his footwork was not perfect, he had reached the state of basic accomplishment. Otherwise, he would not have been able to force Yuan Nongbai to retreat step by step. Judging from his martial arts attainments alone, Feng Qinghe was on the same level as him. But he had a stronger trump card. That was the knife power. The martial Dao power that all martial artists dream of. Once the knife power came out, it only took one move to defeat Feng Qinghe. Inside the restaurant, bang! The wine glass fell to the ground and shattered. The head of the Yuan family looked extremely ugly. Just now, he vowed and even bet with other heads of families that Yuan Nongbai could defeat Feng Qinghe within 10 moves. But who would have thought that the reality was completely the opposite? Victory and defeat are common in the military. Head of the Yuan family does not need to think too much and relax. The 9th prince took a deep breath. A smile appeared on his face. As a sovereign clan, he naturally could not be affected by such a small matter, and even if he was affected, he would not show it in front of others. Thank you for your understanding, Your Highness. I will definitely urge my son to practice harder in the future. The head of the Yuan family was relieved when he heard that the 9th prince did not blame him. He regretted it in his heart. If I had known this, I would not have bothered. It was just shooting myself in the foot. The main thing was that I really didn't expect that Feng Qinghe actually hid his strength. It was completely different from what the intelligence said. Nowadays, the power of the sect is really growing day by day. The 9th prince slowly stood up and stood with his hands behind his back. According to what the head of the Yuan family said, your son and Feng Qinghe's qualifications are almost the same, but the difference in their strength is huge. It can be seen that the cultivation of geniuses in the profound Heaven Sword sect has surpassed the academy. All under heaven is the king's land, and all the people are the king's subjects. A head of the family stood up and said, no matter how strong the sect is, it has its limits and must submit to the rule of the dynasty. Hearing this, the corners of the 9th prince's mouth rose. Although it was flattery, he liked to hear it. Sect. The 9th prince's eyes flashed with a cold color. The world's power is rising and falling. The academy may not be the best choice. You can consider profound Heaven Sword sect. Feng Qinghe said loudly in the square. As soon as this was said, there was another uproar. It is very rare to belittle the academy so blatantly, but no one could refute it. After all, Yuan Nongbai was still lying on the ground. No, he had already stood up staggeringly. It's just that he looked miserable, with blood-red sword marks all over his body. Damn it! Cheng Qingman clenched her fists. Anger appeared on her pretty face. Her father and even ancestors had basically studied in the academy, including her, so she had a deep affection for the academy. Now hearing others insulting her like this, it was naturally unbearable. But she was only in the 6th layer of the true acupoint realm now. Even Yuan Nongbai was not Feng Qinghe's opponent, let alone her. Chapter 28. Bullshit. Lin Rufeng was impatient and blurted out the answer. It also attracted the attention of many people, including Feng Qinghe. For a moment, people around looked over. It's a disciple of the academy. The standard academy attire quickly revealed his identity. Feng Qinghe's eyes were slightly cold. Since you have a different opinion, let's go on stage and compete. Hearing this, Lin Rufeng's face changed slightly. With his strength, how could he be Feng Qinghe's opponent? I'm afraid he will be defeated in one move. Don't you dare? Feng Qinghe sneered. It seems that the disciples of the academy can only show off their eloquence. You. Lin Rufeng directly pulled off the white cloth on the spear. The other party said this. How could he bear it anymore? Even if he was destined to lose, he had to go. However, at this time, a hand pressed on his shoulder. Lin Rufeng subconsciously turned around. It was Luo Mu. It's just a small minion. Why should senior brother Lin take action? Luo Mu smiled. Hiss. Hearing this, there was a sound of gasps all around. A small minion? You really dare to say that? Junior brother Luo? Cheng Qingman's eyes flashed with worry. She was angry, but she still knew the reality. In terms of martial Dao background, Luo Mu and Feng Qinghe were no different. They both mastered 2 profound rank middle-grade martial arts. One was perfect, and the other was basic accomplishment. But Luo Mu's cultivation level was only 5th layer, while Feng Qinghe was 9th layer. There was a gap. It was basically difficult to beat Feng Qinghe. It's okay. I'll be back soon. Luo Mu gave her a reassuring look. From the bottom of his heart, he didn't want to wade into this muddy water. It's best to stay out of it. But after all, he is a disciple of the academy. Going out and walking represents the academy. Now that he has said so much, we can't just ignore it. Rather than waiting for Lin Rufeng to be beaten down, it's better to go on the field and solve it as soon as possible. Then he tiptoed. Luo Mu landed on the square, facing Feng Qinghe from a distance. Outer Palace Disciple? Only the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm? Feng Qinghe thought he was a great strong man. After all, he was so arrogant and dared to say that he was a small follower. But when he looked closely, he almost froze him. What? Outer Palace Disciple? Only the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm. Where does he get his confidence from? There was a speechless speech all around. Even Yuan Nongbai, who was in the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm, lost, let alone the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm. And he was a 2nd-level Outer Palace Disciple. What did he win with? Why did he win? It seems that we really need to think about the younger generation. The disciples who come out of the academy nowadays are really hard to describe. Many people shook their heads. In the restaurant, the dramatic scene also attracted the attention of the 9th prince and others. Isn't this nonsense? The head of the Yuan family snorted coldly. Even my son has lost, and this Outer Palace disciple dares to challenge Feng Qinghe. He really doesn't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is. Yes, I don't know where this young man got the courage from. The other heads of the family also nodded. However, the 9th prince's face showed interest. In his cognition, no one should dare to do such a stupid thing, unless there is another support. For a moment, he couldn't help but look forward to it, and his eyes fell on Luo Mu. I tell you, junior brother Luo is very powerful. Don't look down on people. Seeing that the people around him were either sneering or sarcastic, Lin Rufeng immediately refuted. After all, if he hadn't been unable to help but speak, junior brother Luo wouldn't have to go on the field for him. So his position must be extremely firm. Yes, be careful that the result will shock your jaw. Zhang Hai also added. Junior brother Luo, come on. Cheng Qingman waved his hands. After defeating you, the families of Xianxia City may be even more disappointed with the academy. From this point of view, I should thank you. Feng Qinghe said softly. Didn't anyone tell you that you can't speak too early? Luo Mu pressed the hilt of the knife at his waist with his right hand, his face calm, and slowly spoke. Too early? Feng Qinghe laughed. You don't think you can really beat me, do you? You talk too much. Luo Mu shook his head slightly, and then looked at the deacon of Myriad Manifestations Pavilion, Changle Academy. Luo Mu, challenge Feng Qinghe. Do you accept the challenge? The deacon looked at Feng Qinghe. Of course. Feng Qinghe snorted. Changle Academy Luo Mu, challenge profound Heaven Sword Sect Feng Qinghe. Begin. The deacon was always very straightforward, without a bit of nonsense. One sword to solve you. Feng Qinghe's eyes were cold, and he drew the sword directly out of the sheath, and used all his strength. Although on the surface, he was very contemptuous, but he never looked down on him in his heart. He dared to come up with only the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm. Either his brain is abnormal, or he has a trump card. So he must be serious, and use all his strength even if a lion fights a rabbit. Kanglin's sword art tied. Feng Qinghe slashed out with the sword, and the sword energy was continuous, like a tidal wave, rushing towards Luo Mu. Is Feng Qinghe too serious? This sword is almost full of strength. Some people were surprised. I remember that when I fought against Yuan Nongbai just now, I used such a move. But the opponent now is only the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm. Good pressure, the blood, can finally boil. Facing this sword, Luo Mu's mouth corners slowly raised. The original calm temperament of the whole person also gradually began to change. Chapter 29. To be honest, he had never met an opponent who could bring him pressure. Now he finally met one. But it was just a little pressure. Are you scared? Seeing Luo Mu motionless, many people suddenly had this thought in their minds. Feng Qinghe was the same. Kneel down. Feng Qinghe smiled. Maybe he was overthinking. This guy is not worth mentioning at all. But the next second, a terrible, even terrifying saber chi rose to the sky in the square. Luo Mu drew his sword. The sword light was like snow, domineering and unparalleled, directly chopped off all the surging sword chi. The ground was even full of gullies and messy. What? Feng Qinghe's face changed instantly. This scene was completely beyond his expectations. It also shocked everyone around. What a strong swordsmanship, it can actually withstand Feng Qinghe's sword chi. Someone exclaimed. This should be the profound rank middle-grade swordsmanship, and it has been cultivated to perfection. No wonder he dared to challenge Feng Qinghe. It turns out that he has something to rely on. Others reacted one after another. They also began to get excited. It seems that the academy is still very strong, not as Feng Qinghe said, that it is getting old and no longer alive. Even an Outer Palace disciple can master the profound rank middle grade. It can be seen that the foundation is profound. Interesting. In the restaurant, the eyes of the 9th prince were slightly bright. Any academy has inner and outer palaces. If it is a top-ranked academy, he may understand. But Changle Academy ranks at the bottom. I didn't expect that there would be such a genius in the Outer Palace. You must know that profound rank middle-grade martial arts cannot be mastered by ordinary people in the true realm. At least it takes an inner palace-level genius. I was wrong. The head of the Yuan family coughed dryly. I was still questioning it the second before, but I was slapped in the face the next second. Today, I really didn't check the almanac before going out. Everything is not good. A mid-level sword technique from the Xin grade. No wonder you dare to challenge me. You really have a trump card. Feng Qinghe's complexion gradually returned to normal, and a strong coldness appeared between his eyebrows. At the same time, he was glad that he was not careless. Otherwise, he might have capsized in the ditch. But do you think that you can compete with me with just one sword technique? Feng Qinghe made a sword flower. The aura became stronger. In terms of realm alone, I will suppress you fourth layer. That's it. Luo Mu's face was calm. A full 100 of lifeless saber chi in his body all poured into the spiritual sword in his hand. Luo Mu didn't dare to do this before, because ordinary swords and weapons could not withstand the power of saber chi at all, and would definitely break apart. But now there is no such concern. The spiritual sword is strong enough to withstand it, and through the use of the spiritual sword, saber chi can be made more powerful. Cut. Without any hesitation, Luo Mu directly drew his sword. Bang! A terrifying blade light nearly 100 meters long appeared out of nowhere and slashed down at Feng Qinghe's head. The wind whistled and the air exploded. This is the Tyrant Blade style. The strongest move in the Sword of the Immortal Sword. It is extremely domineering. Wherever you look, one blade kills. This. Feng Qinghe's pupil shrank slightly. This blade is more powerful than the previous one. The power is completely on a different level. If he is hit, he will be crippled if not dead. No, I must not be hit. Feng Qinghe can feel the terrifying death contained in the blade light. If he touches it even a little bit, the vitality in his body will be devoured crazily. Boom. A blade slashed down. The square shook and dust rose. A figure jumped out of the dust. It was Feng Qinghe. He naturally couldn't take the blade head-on, so he used his agile body to dodge it. This sword technique is definitely top-notch in the profound rank middle grade level, and may even be more advanced than the Kanglan sword art. Otherwise it would not be so powerful. Feng Qinghe's face was solemn for the first time. This sword technique is too fierce, 100-meter-long sword light. Is this what a true acupoint realm martial artist can perform? Those who don't know would think it was a Spirit Sea realm martial artist fighting. There were endless exclamations all around. Spirit Sea realm martial artists gave birth to true chi, which can be performed out of the body, so in their hands, you can often see very exaggerated martial Dao edges. But now the performer is only in the true acupoint realm. Hearing the voices around, Chung Qingman and the other two immediately showed pride on their faces. The Unborn Sword Sutra is one of the strongest profound rank middle grade martial arts in the academy, mysterious and profound. Once practiced, there are 100 unborn saber chi in the body, which can be dispersed to attack, or merged into one sword, and the power is not weaker than that of ordinary high grade. Junior brother Luo can be said to be the only one who has mastered it among the current disciples of the academy. No matter how powerful his sword skills are, he has to be able to touch me. Feng Qinghe was not panicked. His body skills have already reached basic accomplishment, enough to tease his opponents. For example, Yuan Nongbai just now. He couldn't touch his body at all, and he even took advantage of his body skills to find flaws and attack. Whoosh! Another sword came. Feng Qinghe was prepared and dodged in advance. At the same time, he rushed towards Luo Mu. Although the sword skills of this Outer Palace disciple are powerful, it seems useless if he can't touch Feng Qinghe. Many people saw the clues. Yes, Feng Qinghe's body is too flexible. Just like a spirit ape, it's impossible to touch him. In the long run, Feng Qinghe will definitely find a flaw and break through it in one fell swoop. It seems that the final winner is still Feng Qinghe. Amidst everyone's discussion, Feng Qinghe seized a gap when Luo Mu's knife was out, and finally got close. You should lie down. A cold smile appeared on Feng Qinghe's face. It has been a long time since he was beaten and ran around, constantly dodging. He must be defeated severely. Only then can the shame be washed away. Clang. However, when the sword blade was approaching, a crisp sound of metal clashing sounded. There were even sparks flying. Impossible. Feng Qinghe's face suddenly changed, and he looked unbelievable. I saw that his long sword actually stopped, unable to touch the skin, and was forcibly blocked by a light red gas. That is physical chi. Feng Qinghe took a breath of cool air. Then he subconsciously looked at Luo Mu. But all he got in response was Luo Mu's indifferent eyes and the sharp blade light. Chapter 30. Puff. A blood-red knife mark appeared on Feng Qinghe's chest. Not deep, but not shallow either. For a moment, blood gushed out. Feng Qinghe's reaction was fast enough, and he immediately moved back. Otherwise, This knife would definitely cause serious injuries. Tada! The blood dripped, crisp and melodious. The surroundings were silent. Am I seeing right? That's the physical body's qi? Someone gasped. When Feng Qinghe seized the flaw and approached, everyone felt that the outcome was decided. Who would have thought that the Outer Palace disciple actually had a trump card? His physical body was very strong, and even gave birth to qi, directly blocking Feng Qinghe's attack. He backhanded a knife. Injured Feng Qinghe. Wonderful. In the absence of an absolute position, the spectators around naturally hoped that the battle could have more reversals. Otherwise, everything was set. It would be too boring. I remember that you have to practice at least the profound rank middle grade body refining technique and reach basic accomplishment before you can have physical energy. Someone said. Yes, I didn't expect that a mere Outer Palace disciple not only mastered the perfect middle grade sword technique, but also practiced a middle grade body refining. This is really incredible. Everyone was shocked. People's energy is limited, especially at a low level. They can't practice too many martial arts. For a level like profound rank middle grade, one is the limit, let alone two. Unless they are extremely talented. But such people are so rare? I told you that I would shock you. Cheng Qingman crossed his arms. Zhang Hai and Lin Rufeng did the same, raising their heads slightly and looking proud. The three of them naturally knew Luo Mu's situation. Elder Lin had revealed it when they were at the base. It was just that at that time, Mo Luo couldn't force out all of Luo Mu's strength. So the three of them didn't have a very intuitive feeling. It is impossible to judge accurately. Now it seems that junior brother Luo's strength is no less than Feng Qinghe's, and they are at the same level. Even if he can't win, he will never lose. Not bad. In the restaurant, the ninth prince couldn't help but applaud and even nodded slightly. It was really surprising that an Outer Palace disciple had mastered two profound rank middle grade martial arts, one of which was perfect and the other basic accomplishment. Master Yuan, this boy is better than Ruer, the head of the Wang family said immediately. Hearing this, the head of the Yuan family moved his mouth, but couldn't speak. This is a real gap that is in the open, and it is impossible to refute it. I didn't expect that you actually have such a strong body. Feng Qinghe glanced at the injury on his chest. The corners of his eyes twitched, and his eyes were even colder. How long has it been? He almost forgot how long he hadn't been injured. If he was injured by someone with a higher realm, it would be fine, but the person in front of him was only the fifth layer of the true acupoint realm. Your reaction is quite fast. Luo Mu looked at the bloody tip of the knife. If it were someone else, it would have been split in two. But Feng Qinghe was able to dodge it. It can only be said that he is worthy of being the best on the hidden dragon list. He is worthy of the name, without any water. It seems that I really underestimated you. If you and I were at the same level, I really wouldn't be sure of winning, but now, the winner will still be me. Feng Qinghe tapped his chest a few times, forcibly stopping the bleeding and the death intent that penetrated in. His face was already serious. After all, his cultivation was higher, and his blood was abundant, enough to support a protracted battle. When the opponent's blood was exhausted, that was his chance. Although this approach was not glorious enough, there was no other way at the moment. You are confident. Luo Mu shook his head slightly. Forget it, the test is almost done. It's time to end it. It was not easy to meet a master. Luo Mu would naturally not end too soon. He needed to test some things, such as the power of the knife, the limit of the Gangqi, and so on. The likes of Mashama Luo are still too weak, and do not have the qualifications to be tested. Only geniuses like Feng Qinghe can be tested. Test? Feng Qinghe was stunned. Then his face darkened. What this means is that he is being treated as a grindstone. This boy is too arrogant. He dares to use Feng Qinghe as a grindstone. At present, Feng Qinghe should have the upper hand. Everyone present looked at him sideways after hearing this. Although Feng Qinghe was injured, it was only because he was careless. He didn't know that Luo Mu still had such a strong body. Now that he is serious, he can still win with the advantage of cultivation. Even if he can't win, it will end in a draw. Then let me see what trump cards you have. Feng Qinghe was furious, and his body turned into several afterimages and rushed towards Luo Mu. The speed was extremely fast and difficult to catch. Luo Mu took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes, boom, a domineering aura suddenly surged out of his body, covering the entire square. Everyone felt like they were carrying a mountain. His shoulders suddenly sank, and he had difficulty walking and breathing. Feng Qinghe stopped instantly. Like being stuck in a quagmire, he stopped right where he was. How is it possible? Feng Qinghe was stunned, and then his pupils suddenly shrank, revealing a strong sense of disbelief, even horror. As a disciple of a great sect, how could he not understand what this terrifying aura was? Blade force. You actually realize the blade force. Feng Qinghe lost his voice. His face was pale. This was the mysterious power that all martial artists dreamed of. He had practiced for so long, not to mention realizing it, He hadn't even touched the edge. But the person in front of him actually realized the blade force. For a moment, Feng Qinghe was stunned, and his mind went blank. Huh. In the restaurant, the ninth prince instantly walked to the railing. Shock appeared in his pale golden eyes. Blade force. It was actually the blade force. If it was a Spirit Sea Realm martial artist, he might be able to understand it, because at this level, the understanding of martial Dao has reached a higher level. For a demon, it is not very difficult to comprehend the general trend of martial Dao, but it is too rare to comprehend it in the true acupoint realm. Even in some of the top-ranked academies, there are only a handful of them. At first, he thought it was a treasure left by his predecessors, but after careful observation, there was no trace of a strong bloodline. It was completely an ordinary person. I didn't expect that there would be such a demon in the 7 counties of Chang'e. A happy smile suddenly appeared on the handsome face of the ninth prince. His hands unconsciously grasped the railing. Knife power. After a short silence, the crowd was completely in uproar. One by one, they took a breath. Unbelievable. God knows what they saw. It was the rumored knife power. The Outer Palace disciple named Luo Mu on the field also has knife power. Oh my God, this is a disciple from the Outer Palace? He is simply a demon from the Inner Palace. Someone murmured. In the eyes of the world, only the demons in the Inner Palace can comprehend the great trend of martial Dao. No, maybe it can be called a demon among demons. After all, the person in front of him is only in the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm and has not even set foot in the Spirit Sea realm. Completely refreshed cognition. Cheng Qingman and the other two were also completely stunned. Stunned? Blade power? Are you kidding? When did junior brother Luo comprehend the blade power? Didn't he just perfect the sword technique 6 days ago? Profound rank martial arts are profound and far-reaching. After perfection, maintaining high-intensity practice can indeed help the martial artist comprehend the great trend of martial Dao, but it is only a little help. The most important thing is the martial artist himself. Junior brother Luo, is he really a human? Lin Rufeng swallowed his saliva and said with difficulty. Lu Tian realized the sword's power. What a niche text. I know every word, but when they are combined, they are full of unfamiliarity. Compared with junior brother Luo, maybe we should be Outer Palace disciples. Zhang Hai came back to his senses, feeling a little bitter. The Inner Palace disciples have always been proud, but at this moment, the arrogance in their hearts is completely gone. Not a bit.
Left?
Chapter 31. It didn't take 6 days at all. Cheng Qingman rubbed her stiff cheeks and whispered softly. Others don't know. She knows it very well. Because in the past 5 days, Luo Mu didn't practice swordsmanship at all, but focused on improving his cultivation. So, after Luo Mu perfected his swordsmanship, he only spent a little more than a day to comprehend the sword force. Really inhuman. After thinking for a long time, Cheng Qingman only had this adjective. In the square. Feng Qinghe was still stunned. The appearance of the sword force completely shattered his belief. Once any martial artist has the martial Dao force, his strength can be said to be nearly 10 times improved. This is still a rough and simple statement. In fact, it is more exaggerated. Ba Dao style. Luo Mu didn't waste time, holding the spirit sword in his hand, and slashed it down. The 100-meter sword light reappeared. But compared with before, it was more powerful, and it seemed to be approaching reality. Before the sword light arrived, the square was already covered with dense sword marks, as if it had been swept by countless saber chi. Feng Qinghe was even more suddenly awakened. For the first time, fear surged in his heart. This sword cannot be avoided, cannot be blocked. It is a sword that will kill you. I am going to die? Feng Qinghe felt absurd. Since he started practicing, he had never been forced to this extent by a martial artist of the same level, and he never thought that anyone could do it. But now, I give up. Feng Qinghe closed his eyes and roared. The sword light stopped immediately, hanging 1 centimeter in front of his forehead. Then it turned into a light spot and dissipated. And the terrifying momentum like the abyss also disappeared in an instant,
Loving the audiobooks?
as if it had never appeared.
Your support on Patreon
Everyone felt
helps
their
me keep
bodies
them coming.
relax. No longer
Check
felt
out the link in
burdened.
the description.
Is this the trend of martial
A huge
Dao?
thank you for your
It's
support.
so scary. Being
Now,
in it,
let's
both the
dive into
body
the
and
next
the
chapter.
spirit will be affected, and the strength will be greatly reduced, while the owner will have a large bonus. The other side loses and I gain. The gap can be imagined. Everyone couldn't help but exclaim, "Aren't you going to announce it yet?" Luo Mu sheathed his sword and looked at the deacon of Myriad Manifestations Pavilion. The deacon came back to his senses immediately. For the first time, there was a different expression on his face, which was always calm. That was shock. As a deacon of Myriad Manifestations Pavilion, he was naturally knowledgeable and experienced. But he realized the trend of martial Dao in the true acupoint realm. It's really too rare. The winner is Luo Mu, Chang'e Academy, the deacon said loudly. As soon as the words fell, The crowd around him suddenly started to talk, one after another. Who could have thought that the ending would be like this? Yes, a disciple from the Outer Palace not only practiced 2 Shinpin intermediate martial arts, but also possessed the sword power. This martial Dao background is really unbelievable. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never believe it. It seems that the training ability of the academy is still beyond doubt. If we have younger generations in the future, we still have to find a way to send them to the academy. Not bad. Just when Luo Mu turned around, Feng Qinghe's voice sounded. Luo Mu, what do you think? Luo Mu said casually without turning his head. Being ahead for a while does not mean being ahead step by step. One day, I will surpass you, defeat you, and wash away today's shame. Feng Qinghe gritted his teeth. Then work hard and chase after you desperately. Otherwise, after a long time, I am afraid that when I look back, I will no longer see you. Luo Mu raised the corners of his mouth slightly and walked forward. You. Feng Qinghe clenched his hands. He wanted to say something to refute, but he opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. A guy who has the great potential of martial Dao in the true acupoint realm. It can be seen how terrifying his comprehension is. And he himself, almost in the spirit sea, can't even see the shadow of the great potential of martial Dao. Luo Mu suddenly stopped. Inexplicably, he seemed to feel something. Following the feeling, he saw a slender boy standing in the restaurant not far away. The boy was dressed in luxurious clothes. His skin was whiter than snow, especially that face, handsome beyond words, even beautiful. The boy was looking at him. In the light golden eyes, there was a bright luster. The two looked at each other from a distance. The boy smiled at Luo Mu and nodded gently. Luo Mu frowned slightly, not knowing why, but nodded in response. Then he retracted his gaze and walked towards Chengqing Man and others. It seems that His Highness has taken a fancy to this boy. The head of the Wang family came over. When the knife force appeared just now, even they were shocked. This talent is really too exaggerated. No one among the younger generations of our family can compare with it. Of course, the 9th prince did not shy away. He left the imperial capital and came here. In addition to wanting to win over the princes of the 7 counties of Chang'an, he also wanted to find some more evil geniuses. Do you want to bring him here? The head of the Wang family asked. No, we have already met just now, and I remember that the academy ceremony will be held in a month. We will see each other again then. The corners of the 9th prince's mouth slightly raised. The sunlight shone on his side face, which was surprisingly beautiful. Brother Luo, you are hiding too deeply. You even figured out the knife force. Lin Ruffing said excitedly. Yes, that is the trend of martial Dao. Even if you are a demon in the inner palace, not many people have it, and you are only in the true acupoint realm at present. Zhang Hai nodded. It's just that God rewards hard work. Luo Mu smiled. Hearing this, the two were stunned. God rewards hard work, it seems to be true. Talent is just a prerequisite. Geniuses also have to work hard. Otherwise, there will not be much achievement. And they have seen Luo Mu's hard work in practicing. It is not an exaggeration to describe it as forgetting to eat and sleep. Maybe this is why Luo Mu can comprehend the sword force so quickly. It seems that I have to work harder. Otherwise, the gap between me and Luo Mu will become larger and larger until I can't see him anymore. Lin Rufeng, you have to thank Brother Luo very much. If it weren't for Brother Luo's help today, you would definitely lose. Chengqing Man said. Of course. Then you have to treat me. Please. Okay, I'll help you choose the most expensive restaurant in Xianxia City. Chapter 32. At night, Luo Mu returned to his yard. He sat on a stone bench. Looking at the bright moonlight, he began to recall everything that happened today, especially the battle with Feng Qinghe. With the sword force, he could naturally solve it in an instant. But in order to test some things, he had to spend more time. The advantages are obvious, but there are also many disadvantages. Luo Mu's eyes were deep. First of all, the Wuxing Sword Sutra, the sword technique is extremely powerful, no less than the ordinary profound rank high grade, but the sword speed is a bit slow, and it is difficult to keep up with Feng Qinghe, who is good at body skills. It is easy to be avoided. I have to practice another fast sword style martial arts, or body skills. The second is the Xianyang Tyrant body skill. The mind moved slightly. The light red aura on the body surface emerged. This is just the initial aura, so Feng Qinghe's swordsmanship can actually break it. However, he gathered the scattered qi all over his body to one point, greatly improving his defense and thus blocking the sword. If I practice to the perfect state, then even if I spread my whole body, I can easily block it. Luo Mu thought. The benefits of a strong body have been fully demonstrated in these battles, even if his speed is not good. But as long as the body is strong enough, he can respond to changes with the same attitude, and even seize the opportunity to counterattack. After returning to the academy, I will exchange some extreme young essence. If I am a little luckier, it will not be a problem to practice to perfection. During the trip to the stronghold, he got about 70,000 contribution points. It should be possible to exchange a lot of extreme yang essence. In addition, if you want to increase your sword power, you have to practice more profound rank swordsmanship. Luo Mu stood up. The Wuxing Sword Sutra has reached its limit, and there is no point in practicing it again. After this arrangement, there seems to be a lot of places to improve. And Luo Mu remembered the conversation when he was eating in the restaurant. He asked about the situation in the inner palace. Cheng Qingman said that with his current martial Dao background, even if he set foot in the Spirit Sea, he could only rank in the top 30 in a short time. Chang'an Academy. It covers 7 large counties, so you can imagine how many geniuses there are. This year, there are 30 people in the inner palace who have realized the great trend of martial Dao, and these people have broken through to the Spirit Sea realm, and they are still practicing profound rank high-grade martial arts. They are extremely powerful. This is the gap between the inner and outer palaces. Luo Mu's eyes condensed slightly. There is no profound rank high-grade martial arts in the outer palace's martial arts building. The highest is middle grade. High-grade martial arts are second only to earth rank. You can imagine how precious it is. Even in the academy, it will not be easily taught. Some conditions need to be met. This also means that he can't easily catch up in the field of martial arts. Dong dong dong. Suddenly the courtyard door was knocked. Luo Mu raised his eyebrows. Who would come to see him in the middle of the night? Could it be Cheng Qingman again? Open the door. It was indeed. Cheng Qingman was holding a bunch of secret books in her arms. Without waiting for Luo Mu's consent, she ran into the yard and put all the secret books in her arms on the stone table. I am so tired. Cheng Qingman gently wiped the sweat on her forehead, picked up the teacup, and drank it all in one gulp, regardless of whether Luo Mu had used it before. What is this? Luo Mu was surprised. Uncle Gong said that after realizing the sword's power, you need to learn more sword techniques to increase the sword's power, so I went to look for it in my own arsenal. Unfortunately, my father and ancestors are all rough men, either using axes or hammers, and there are very few sword techniques, only a few of them, and the grade is not particularly high. Brother Luo, you can make do with it for now. Cheng Qingman let out a long breath. Sword techniques? Luo Mu was startled, then walked closer. His pupils shrank slightly. There are a total of 15 sword techniques secret books on the stone table. All of them are profound rank starting. 10 profound rank low grade, 5 profound rank middle grade. If this is placed in the academy. No, the academy cannot be used as a comparison. The price of martial arts in the academy has been greatly reduced. It is a benefit for students. In the outside world, don't even mention profound rank middle grade. Even low grade, even human level is precious. Enough for many families to regard it as a clan martial art. But now, Cheng Qingman took out 15 books in one breath. Sister Cheng, is there anything I can help you with? He was lacking in swordsmanship, so he naturally couldn't ignore it. So he got straight to the point. Look at what you said, Brother Luo, and you're still so polite. We're friends now, so friends should help each other. Cheng Qingman sat on the stool, holding her chin with both hands, smiling. I'll help you now, and if I get into trouble in the future, I believe you'll help me too. Here, the words were already very direct. It's investing in your future. Heard. Luo Mu smiled. Sister Cheng has so much confidence in me. Aren't you afraid of getting nothing? Of course I have confidence. I'm in the inner palace, and I've seen many geniuses, even monsters. Cheng Qingman's eyes narrowed into a beautiful crescent. Although some people are better than you now, I think as long as you give me more time, it's no problem to surpass them. In the future, you will definitely become an apex-level powerhouse like my father. No, it may be stronger. Luo Mu was slightly stunned. I didn't expect Cheng Qingman to be so optimistic about him, but after thinking about it carefully, it seems normal. After all, it is rare to realize the great trend of martial Dao in the true acupoint realm. No one would easily ignore it. Thank you, Senior Sister Cheng. Luo Mu pondered for a while, and then smiled. A total of 15 profound rank swordsmanship books, including 5 profound rank middle grade books. This is a big deal. Even if he exchanges them in the academy, the contribution points in his hand are not enough. Hee. Cheng Qingman smiled immediately after getting Luo Mu's answer. Although she is a genius, she did not completely inherit the qualifications of her father. She can only be said to be an ordinary genius, so her future achievements are limited. But it doesn't matter. If you can't become a Thai, you can hold on to others. Especially this kind of future must be thick and long. Then I won't bother you. Cheng Qingman stood up. Knowing that Luo Mu's mind is probably on the swordsmanship secrets now, there is no point in staying for a long time. Go slowly. Luo Mu nodded. His eyes were indeed on the secret book. Seeing this, Cheng Qingman rolled her eyes beautifully. Big martial arts fanatic. Close the door carefully. Cheng Qingman put her hands behind her back, entwining her slender fingers. She began to hum a little tune. The smile on her face became brighter. The moon tonight is really round. Chapter 33. In the courtyard. Luo Mu sat down excitedly and began to flip through the books one by one. It was like a pillow when you were sleepy. He was just thinking about increasing his sword power, and Cheng Qingman came to give him the sword secret book. There were a total of 15 sword books. Each book had its own characteristics, which were completely different from the Wushang Dao Jing. Once all of them were practiced, the sword power would definitely increase a lot. The only pity was that there was no profound rank high grade. Thinking of this, Luo Mu suddenly stopped moving, and a light bulb suddenly appeared in his mind. Why can't I create it myself? No. Strictly speaking, it is deduction. Creating something out of nothing must be very, very difficult, but deduction would be much simpler. After all, there is already a foundation, a framework, and a main trunk. He still likes the Wushang Dao Jing very much. If it is not necessary, I don't want to change it. And if it can be upgraded to profound rank high grade, there is no need to change it. Now that I have realized the sword force, I have truly entered the field of swordsmanship, and I am absolutely qualified to deduce. Luo Mu murmured. If he had not realized the sword force, Luo Mu would not have dared to have such an idea. How profound and exquisite is profound rank high grade? How can it be deduced casually? But after realizing the sword force, it was as if a door was opened, and the understanding of swordsmanship was directly raised to several levels. In addition, even reading books is considered as practice, so how can deduction not be considered? Luo Mu raised his head slightly. This is also the most important source of confidence for him to deduce martial arts. It must be difficult to upgrade the Wuxing Sword Sutra to profound rank high grade, and it will take a long time. But he has a critical hit. As long as there are a few more high critical hits, the time required can be greatly shortened. Try it. Luo Mu did it as he said, and calmed down and carefully read the 15 sword secrets on the table. Since it is necessary to deduce, it is naturally impossible to improve on the existing basis in a single line. It must be expanded, more things must be added, or shortcomings must be made up. For example, among the 15 sword secrets, there is a book called Wind Knife Secret, which can just make up for the shortcoming of the slow speed of Wuxing Sword Sutra. So you have to thoroughly understand the contents of these 15 secrets first. Only by absorbing the essence can you deduce upwards. In addition, if successful, he does not need to practice so many swordsmanship books, just practice the upgraded version of Wuxing Sword Sutra. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was morning, and the light of the morning sun fell on Luo Mu's face through the window. He slowly put down the sword secrets in his hand. A smile appeared on his face. I thought it would take 2 or 3 days to thoroughly understand these sword secrets. In the end, one night was enough. This is due to the sword momentum. As mentioned before, after realizing the sword momentum, his understanding and comprehension of swordsmanship are no longer the same as before. It won't be like the first time, when I read it once and was confused and didn't understand what it meant. Plus, there are critical hits. So in just one night, I learned it all. The wind knife art focuses on the speed of the knife. If you practice it to perfection, you can cut nearly 100 knives in one breath. The Tianshui Duanlong sword art focuses on the increase of the knife power. One knife is better than another. When the 10th knife is made, the power can be increased to 10 times. There is a piece of paper in front of Luo Mu. It is full of words, which are the essence of each knife method. It is not a simple record, but involves all the details. Next, you can try to deduce it. Luo Mu took out a blank secret book, slowly closed his eyes. Immersed in it, he began to deduce. An hour later, ding! You concentrate and devote all your energy to deeply deduce the Wuxing Sword Sutra, triggering a critical hit and gaining 30 times the reward. The system prompt sounded. Luo Mu smiled immediately. Sure enough, his idea was not wrong, and deduction is also a practice. In an instant, a lot of information and content appeared in his mind, but it is still far from success. Continue. Luo Mu did not think much. At this time, outside the courtyard gate, Cheng Qingman, Zhang Hai, and Lin Rufeng have come. Because today is the day to leave Xianxia City and return to the academy. Just knocked on the door for a long time, but there was no response. Brother Luo, won't fall into it again? Zhang Hai said. He used the word fall into. It feels that only this word can accurately describe it. It should be. Cheng Qingman nodded. Yesterday, he took so many sword secrets to Luo Mu in one go. With Luo Mu's martial arts fanatic character, he would indeed fall into it. What do you say? Zhang Hai spread his hands. You go back first. Cheng Qingman said, I'll wait for Brother Luo. Okay. Zhang Hai and Lin Rufeng nodded. Both of them had things to do, so they couldn't stay here for long. You have to pay attention to the time. Don't let junior brother Luo miss the academy ceremony. Lin Rufeng said. With junior brother Luo's strength, he will definitely shine and show his style in the academy ceremony. There will also be big figures from the 7 counties of Chang'an present. It would be a pity to miss it. Don't worry. Chung Ching-man replied. Yes. Then the two turned and left. I wonder if my father will go to the academy ceremony? Chung Ching-man crossed her arms. The academy ceremony is not just a competition between students. It is of great significance. There are 7 academies in the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign dynasty, which are directly under the court. Students who perform well in the ceremony can enter various departments in the dynasty, but most people will choose to join the army. Because the army is a little purer and far away from the court, as long as the military merits are enough, there will be opportunities to be conferred marquis or even conferred king. Should be. Chung Ching-man's eyes flickered. Father would definitely not miss such a grand ceremony. I remember hearing my father complain a long time ago. He said that he had no one under his command and could not be of great use. I will definitely introduce Brother Luo to my father when the time comes. Chung Ching-man raised the corners of her mouth, smiling beautifully. Chapter 34. The moon sets and the sun rises. Time flows like flowing water. In a trance. 3 more days have passed. Luo Mu is still in the room, surrounded by piles of papers, some intact, some crumpled, and some torn to pieces. His eyes are full of bloodshot, holding a pin, hovering in the air. Compared to the surroundings, the table in front of him is very clean and tidy. There is only one secret book. It was originally blank, but now it has reached the last few pages. The front has been written. Obviously, most of the deduction has been completed. Ding! You are focused and have no other thoughts. You deeply deduce the Wuxing Dao Jing. A flash of inspiration. Trigger a critical hit and get a 100-fold reward. In an instant, a huge amount of information emerged in his mind again, densely packed, and Luo Mu finally grasped the last key point. He put down the pen and finished writing the rest. Huh. Luo Mu leaned back. His tense nerves relaxed. After about 10 breaths, a hearty laugh slowly rang out in the room. Luo Mu sat up straight. He picked up the secret book on the table, his face full of excitement. Finally done. He successfully derived the Wuxing Sword Sutra to profound rank high grade, and according to his judgment, in the ranks of profound rank high grade, the Wuxing Sword Sutra should also be a top existence. Because the current Wuxing Sword Sutra has almost no shortcomings, he has integrated the essence of 15 sword secret books into it. One breath of 100 swords, sword force amplification, etc. Of course, the most important thing is the Wuxing Sword Sutra itself. Originally, only 100 Wuxing Saber Qi could be condensed, but now 1,000 can be practiced, or even more. The specific number depends on the endurance of the physical body. However, Luo Mu estimated that the highest should be 3,000. Domain Sword Style, Boss Sword Style, Extreme Sword Style, Drawing Sword Style. These are the moves derived by Luo Mu. Simpler than before, but more powerful. Domain Sword Style. The area of 100 meters around the body is filled with Saber Qi, forming a domain. The opponent in it will be attacked by Saber Qi from all directions at any time. It is a range attack method, suitable for clearing the field. But this move consumes a lot of Qi and blood. Luo Mu estimated that he had to at least step into the Spirit Sea realm before he could use it unscrupulously. After all, the quality of true Qi is far higher than Qi and blood. Tyrant Sword Style. The sea embraces all rivers, and all rivers return to the sea. All Saber Qi merged into one sword, which is extremely domineering and contains the momentum to sweep across the world. Extreme Sword Style. In one breath, at least 100 swords can be cut, which is enough to deal with the agile martial artist. Sword Drawing Style. An advanced version of Tyrant Sword Style. Saber Qi is fused, hidden in the sheath, infinitely suppressed, and when it reaches the limit, it will burst out. The power is far beyond Tyrant Sword Style. With the previous foundation, it's not difficult to practice. Luo Mu closed the secret book and smiled. He derived all the sword techniques. Naturally, there are no doubts about the content of the practice. As before, the main thing is to condense the lifeless Saber Qi, which is the foundation of the swordsmanship. 100 is the entry. 300 is the initial glimpse. 500 is basic accomplishment. 700 is great accomplishment. As for perfection, 1,000 can be considered perfect, but it is far from reaching the upper limit. In addition, you need to practice the moves. Today's moves are extremely exquisite. It is not enough to just understand them, but you have to practice them continuously. How long has it been? There is no time in practice. Even though Luo Mu was careful, he was still a little dazed. It should be about 3 days. Luo Mu stood up. He stretched his body, and suddenly there was a crackling sound of bones frying beans in his body. In 3 days, a swordsmanship has been derived to high grade. I guess no one will believe it if I tell it out. Luo Mu raised the corner of his mouth. Of course, all this is thanks to the little help of the system. And the rules he summarized before are also correct. The longer you practice, the more deeply you immerse yourself, and the greater the probability of a high critical hit. In these 3 days, he forgot to eat and sleep and was focused on the deduction. The number of 100-fold critical hits was as high as 13 times. There was even one 300-fold one. Otherwise, he would not have been able to deduce successfully so quickly. In addition, a flash of inspiration is also very important. Luo Mu put away the secret book and put it in the storage ring. Whether it is martial Tao practice or the deduction of skills, there is a saying of a flash of inspiration. What is a flash of inspiration? It is a certain moment when you seem to enter a wonderful state, like an epiphany. In this state, you will have a lot of thoughts, far beyond the usual. For example, just now, he was very lucky to have a flash of inspiration, and at the same time the system also triggered a 100-fold critical hit. It is equivalent to a flash of inspiration for a full 100 times. You can imagine how exaggerated the harvest is. So he can instantly complete the last key point of the sword technique. A flash of inspiration is very rare. It all depends on luck. So it is almost impossible for ordinary people to deduce martial arts, even if they spend their whole lives. Take a deep breath. Luo Mu dispersed his thoughts, walked to the side, washed up a little, picked up the spirit knife, and walked out. Remembered to leave 3 days ago, but his attention was completely absorbed by the deduction of martial arts. So he forgot. I don't know if Cheng Qingman and others have left. After wandering around in the Marquis's mansion, Luo Mu found Cheng Qingman with the guidance of a servant. At this time, Cheng Qingman was sitting on the swing, holding a spirit fruit in his right hand. He took a bite from time to time, and holding the ancient words picture book in his left hand, he looked at it with interest. The breeze blew Cheng Qingman's black hair. She had a beautiful face and skin like snow, especially her legs, which were quite slender. Under the sunshine, the whole person had an indescribable beauty. In the past, all the attention was on cultivation. As a result, Luo Mu didn't even look at Cheng Qingman seriously. Now he suddenly felt astonished. I didn't expect Cheng Qingman to be so pretty. Brother Luo? Cheng Qingman looked up as if she had noticed something. When she saw Luo Mu, she was startled, and then she showed a look of surprise. You're out of retreat. Sorry, again? Luo Mu hadn't finished speaking yet. Cheng Qingman interrupted directly, even blinking. It's a small matter. Besides, we know each other very well. It's only been 3 days. I thought you would need half a month. Do you want to eat the spiritual fruit? As she said that, Cheng Qingman took out a spiritual fruit from her arms and wiped it on her
clothes.
Chapter 35. It tastes good. Luo Mu took it and took a bite. This spiritual fruit has a natural fragrance that seems to be able to invigorate the spirit and soothe the body and mind. 3 days of high-intensity deduction. It is inevitable that his spirit is a little tired. But at this moment, it is much more relaxed. Let's get ready to go back. Cheng Qingman asked. Well, it's almost done. Luo Mu nodded. Back to the academy, there are still many things to do. I'll take you to a place halfway. Cheng Qingman said a little mysteriously. Where? Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly. You'll know when you get there. It's not far and it's on the way. Cheng Qingman spit out the fruit core and planted it in the flower bed next to it. Okay. Luo Mu nodded. I believe Cheng Qingman will not do meaningless things. Half a day later. The land is vast. The mountains are undulating, and a wide river runs through it. The river is surging. The sound is like thunder, rolling eastward. The peaks on both sides are high, and loud animal calls can be heard from time to time. It lasts for a long time. Zhanwang Gorge? Luo Mu looked at a stone tablet not far away, on which these 3 words were engraved. It is said that 1,000 years ago, 2 kings fought here, and the battle was so fierce that one of the kings was killed. So it is called Zhanwang Gorge. However, this is not the point. The point is that the battle between the kings left many traces, which contain the flavor of martial arts rhyme. Someone once realized the general trend of martial Tao by observing these traces. Cheng Qingman said. Hearing this, Luo Mu took a breath of cold air. Just the remaining traces of the battle can make people comprehend the general trend of martial Tao? How terrifying is the strength of the king? Many people come here every year, but most of them return empty-handed. One reason is that many traces have long been weathered, and there are not many left. The other reason is that martial Tao is difficult to learn and requires extremely high comprehension and luck. Cheng Qingman jumped onto a boulder. By the way, one of the kings uses a knife. Uncle Gong said that you have realized the knife's power and your comprehension must be very good, so you can come and try it. What if you gain something? King of Knife? Luo Mu's eyes suddenly became hot. I didn't expect that there is such a good place in Fengdu County. Look, there are quite a few people. Cheng Qingman pointed to the front. Luo Mu looked in the direction. In the distance, there was a canyon with a rushing river in the middle. On the left mountain, there were many huge and deep traces. Although they were still far apart, they could be distinguished. One is a knife mark, and the other is a fist mark. However, Fist marks are very rare. There are still 8 or 9 knife marks. Let's go. Luo Mu couldn't help but run towards the canyon first. The traces left by the Great Sword King. Any little bit of gain may greatly improve one's sword skills. This is definitely faster than practicing the profound rank sword technique. Wait for me. Qingman hurriedly followed. Not long after, Luo Mu arrived at the foot of the mountain. The mountain was high, about 1,000 meters. There were 9 knife marks on the mountain, but 8 of them had been almost eroded by time. No longer in shape. Only one was still standing, located on the mountainside. It was also the largest knife mark. At this moment, many people were sitting cross-legged in front of the knife mark, their eyes wide open, staring at the knife mark, not daring to blink easily. Luo Mu counted. There were about 100 people, all swordsmen. The scene was very quiet. You could even hear the whistling of the wind. No one spoke, each immersed in their own world, concentrating on understanding the things in the knife mark. It seems there is no position. Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly. Or there is no good position. However, almost the moment the thought fell, someone stood up. It was an older swordsman. He was dejected. His eyes were full of disappointment. Obviously, he did not feel anything from the knife marks. Come from afar, leave empty-handed. It seems that I am destined to stop in this life. The old swordsman murmured. He staggered and passed Luo Mu. Martial Dao practice is so cruel. If you don't have enough talent, you will never be able to reach a higher view. Luo Mu retracted his gaze and walked to the old swordsman's original position. Everyone was immersed in perception, so there was no situation where others would occupy it immediately. Brother Luo, I can't wait for you this time. The ceremony is imminent, and I also need to return to the academy to prepare. Qingman said. Okay, thank you Sister Chang. Luo Mu nodded. If it weren't for Qingman, he really didn't know there was a place like Zhanwang Gorge. He would have missed it. Then see you at the academy. Qingman smiled, turned and left. She actually wanted to accompany Luo Mu, firstly to deepen their relationship and feelings, and secondly, she also had a good impression of Luo Mu, so it might be possible to develop in that direction. But the academy ceremony was too important. He had to prepare well. Otherwise, if he performed too poorly, his father would have a hard time. And in public, he would also lose face for his father. After walking away, Qingman paused slightly and whispered a few words to the woods next to him. The branches and leaves of the woods shook, as if responding. Knife marks. Luo Mu came to the position of the old swordsman. This position can be said to be very good, very forward, and he can touch the knife marks with his hand. Let's start. Let me see what mysteries there are in the marks left by the Sword King. Luo Mu took a deep breath. His eyes were as sharp as torches, immersed in the knife marks before him. Chapter 36. The wind howled. In front of the huge knife mark, there was silence. Occasionally, someone would stand up with regret and turn away. Luo Mu touched the knife mark with his right hand. This way he could feel it more deeply. Before, he might have been like most people, unable to comprehend anything at all, and the traces in front of him were no different from ordinary ones. But now he has the knife power. Then the starting point is completely different. In his eyes, the ordinary knife marks seemed to gradually come to life, began to vibrate, twist, and even rotate. Indistinctly, there was a hazy voice echoing. The person is first class. The knife is first class. The knife is first class. The person is first class. It is first class. The voice was deep and heavy, like an ancient bronze bell, deafening. I don't know if it was an illusion. Luo Mu felt that a burly figure seemed to appear in his mind. His left arm was empty. He held the knife in his right hand. After the knife was slashed, the ground cracked, the sky collapsed. This knife. Luo Mu's breathing was heavy and hot. So far, he had never seen such a mysterious knife method that could affect the world, but it was too profound. Even for him now, it would be difficult to understand the mystery in a short period of time, even a little bit. But Luo Mu did not lose heart. This is just the beginning. There is still time and opportunity. As long as he continues to study and comprehend, there will definitely be gains. About 3 hours later, Luo Mu's originally motionless body suddenly shook, and his pupils also expanded and contracted for a while. He briefly exited the state of comprehension. Finally, he realized a little. The knife force in his body also increased a little. Sure enough, this knife mark can really help martial artists comprehend the knife force and improve the knife force attainments. Ding! You are focused and concentrate on studying the traces of the Knife King. You have a feeling in your heart, triggering a critical strike, and gaining 40 times the harvest. In his mind, the system prompt sounded. At the same time, there were a lot of insights. It is equivalent to comprehending 40 times. The sword power instantly increased greatly. So fast. Luo Mu's mouth corners slightly raised. Before coming here, his sword power attainment was 10%, but now it has gone a little bit. Accumulated, there will be another 200 times of gains. It is estimated that it will reach 20% of the sword power. Continue to comprehend. Luo Mu was in a fiery mood. Continue to immerse in the comprehension. Time flies, and 5 days have passed in a flash. In the Zhanwang Gorge, the river is still rolling eastward, hitting the banks from time to time, raising thousands of angry waves. The sound is like thunder. It seems to be a roar from heaven and earth. In front of the knife mark, every day someone comes, and every day someone leaves. Basically, the number of people is maintained at nearly 100. Luo Mu still sits cross-legged there. The harvest is not bad. The sword power in the body has been improved to 30%. But he knows that there is still room for comprehension of the knife mark, and it is far from the limit. It is not easy to encounter a good place for cultivation. How can it be wasted in vain? You must understand it all. That's a disciple of Chang'e Academy. Some sharp-eyed people found Luo Mu and identified him by his clothes. Yes, he has been here for 5 days without eating or drinking, and he didn't even get up to walk around. Some people nodded, with admiration in their tone. Not everyone can persist for so long. First, the body can't bear it, and second, the spirit is tired and can't concentrate at all. So most people, after 2 or 3 days of meditation, will leave in frustration without any gain. Occasionally, there are people who are well prepared. They will stay a little longer. So these people noticed Luo Mu in front of the knife mark. It seems that you have gained something by persisting for so long. Hearing this, many people showed envy in their eyes. The traces left by the Great Sword King, no matter how big or small the gains are, it must be a great benefit. It's a pity that the admission conditions of the academy are too harsh, otherwise I really want to study in the academy. Someone said regretfully. Unlike the sect, the academy is directly under the dynasty, and both the welfare and treatment are very generous. It is said that even profound rank martial arts can be learned. During the discussion, suddenly the ground began to shake slightly. Everyone hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound. Pupils shrank slightly. Not far away, more than 20 people were walking together. Each of them carried 2 swords. Their faces were serious. It's the Kaming Sword Sect. Someone recognized it. Subconsciously took a step back. The disciples of the Kaming Sword Sect all carried 2 swords, and the clothes they wore were also uniform, which was easy to identify. What are they doing here? It must be to comprehend the sword marks. The moment the words fell, the group of people from the Kaming Sword Sect had already arrived at a nearby point. The leader, his eyes were fierce, and his black hair was tied into a braid. He scanned the whole place. He couldn't help but frown, because there were too many people, and there was no good position. The place closest to the knife mark was full of people. 10 breaths of time. Hurry up and get out of here. The man took a deep breath. His voice was cold. Why? Someone subconsciously refuted. The knife marks left by the king are recognized as ownerless things, determined by the prefect of Fengdu County. So all along, no force can take it for themselves. The martial artist who usually comes here to comprehend also abides by the first-come, first-served rule. If there is no position, wait. With the knife in my hand, it was impossible to see the man's movements clearly, and the knife had already been unsheathed, slashing in the void. The speaker's right arm was directly broken, and blood spurted out. You. Everyone was immediately shocked and angry. This is too domineering. 9 more breaths. If you don't leave, don't blame me for being ruthless. Next time, it'll be your heads. Qi Yun sheathed his sword. His face was cold and indifferent. Seeing this, everyone moved their mouths and could only leave their original positions and walk to the side. In Fengdu County, although the Kaming Dao sect is not the strongest sect, it is also well known, and it has also joined the Wuming. Its strength is second only to the profound Heaven Sword sect. Perhaps due to the cultivation method and environment of the Kaming Dao sect, the personalities of the sect's martial artists are not very good. Once conflicts and disputes arise, it is easy to get angry and kill people. In martial Dao practice, weakness is the original sin. As long as things don't get too big, or involve issues of principled stance, even the prefectural governor's office will not care. Seeing everyone hiding in panic one by one, Qi Yun nodded with satisfaction. He likes the feeling of being feared by others. One by one, everyone regards him as a tiger and a jackal. This feeling really makes people feel ecstatic. But he didn't just drive people away without thinking. The martial artists present today were basically in the body-tempering realm, and the stronger ones were only in the true acupoint realm. And he was already in the true acupoint realm 9th layer. He would soon enter the spirit sea realm. There were also several junior brothers behind him who were above the true acupoint realm 6th layer. So there was no need to restrain himself. Just drive them away. Every once in a while, the sect would send disciples to Zhanwang Gorge to observe the traces of the Sword King. And today he was the leader. Brother, there is still one person who hasn't left. A junior brother behind him said. Qi Yun looked over immediately. There was still a person sitting in front of the traces. It seems to be a disciple of the academy, but from the outer palace. The junior brother seemed to have discovered something through his clothes, and his voice suddenly became a little smaller. What are you afraid of? Let him go. So what if he is a disciple of the academy? Qi Yun said coldly. Since the establishment of the martial alliance, the sect has already had a backbone, and now there is no need to be too afraid of the academy. Besides, he was just an outer palace disciple. Even if he was killed, it might not really lead to any serious consequences. Chapter 37. Hearing this, the junior brother no longer hesitated. He walked forward directly. The sects nowadays are so arrogant that they even dare to drive away the disciples of the academy. Seeing this scene, many people were shocked. All under heaven is the king's land, and all the people are the king's subjects. Even if they are disciples of the outer palace, they represent the imperial academy. Throughout the ages, no sect force dared to look down on the disciples of the academy. In front of the knife mark, Luo Mu closed his eyes and kept touching the knife mark with his right hand. At this time, he was very lucky to enter this state of inspiration again. In his mind, all kinds of thoughts were like a wellspring, and the mystery in the knife mark was also being absorbed by him. The knife force in his body rose rapidly. Ding! You are focused, and you have deeply comprehended the traces of the knife king. The inspiration flashed. Trigger a critical hit and get 1,000 times the harvest. Just when the disciple of Kaming Daozong touched Luo Mu's shoulder, Luo Mu just ended his flash of inspiration, and at the same time, the system prompt sounded in his mind. How much? Luo Mu opened his eyes directly, and a flash of disbelief flashed through his mind. 1,000 times? Boom. The next second, there seemed to be a roar of the great Tao in his mind, and an unimaginable amount of insights rushed in. Magnificent and boundless, vast and profound. These are the deepest truths of swordsmanship, and the sword force in Luo Mu's body also surged instantly. 40%, 50%, 55%, 60%, 65%, 70%, until 80%. Then it slowly stopped, and the sword force surged too much, so Luo Mu couldn't suppress it for a while, and it went straight through his body. Boom! The terrifying sword force soared into the sky, covering hundreds of meters in radius. The mountains and forests shook, and the river surged. Everyone in it, all shoulders sank, as if carrying a mountain. Those with lower cultivation even fell to their knees and couldn't stand up. The Kaming Dao sect disciple who touched Luo Mu even fell directly to the ground, with half of his body sunk into the ground. The sudden scene made everyone confused. After a long while, they came back to their senses one by one. This is the sword force. Someone lost his voice, and his voice was full of shock. Because only the martial Dao force can have such a terrifying deterrent force. Make the martial artists in the world bow their heads. Hearing this, there were gasps of cold air one after another. Unbelievable. And Qi Yun's face changed drastically. Are you kidding? The sword force? A disciple of the outer palace in the true acupoint realm actually has the sword force? At this moment, how could Qi Yun not know that he had kicked the iron plate? Once a martial artist has the martial Dao force, he is almost invincible in the same realm. Even if everyone present comes together, the end is only death. Is this something you have realized through the knife marks? Someone said with envy. How could this be a knife force that you have just realized? Someone swallowed hard. I have had the honor of seeing a strong man who is martial Dao, and it is as high as 60%, but even that strong man's martial Dao is not as good as this person's. As soon as this was said, the whole audience was shocked again. If 60% is not as good as this person, then this person's knife force is not more than 60%? In other words, before this person came to Zhanwang Gorge, he had already realized the martial Dao. It's just that by observing the knife marks, it has been improved to more than 60%. Is this the foundation of the academy? A disciple of the true acupoint realm can have knife force, and the knife force attainment is so exaggerated. Many people were just extremely shocked. In the cognition of the world, the martial Dao is so difficult to understand. How can it be possessed by the true acupoint realm? Even the most evil person has to get the spirit sea realm. But what I see now breaks the cognition. A gust of wind came, and the terrifying knife force suddenly disappeared. And the outer palace disciple seemed to have completely awakened. He stood up slowly. Although he was alone, with only his back, he could bring people an infinite sense of oppression. Many people were even soaked in sweat. Luo Mu took a deep breath. He didn't expect that this time the critical hit would be as high as 1,000 times. And it was 1,000 times when the light flashed. The harvest can be imagined. How rich it is. Directly increased from 30% to 80%. The more the knife force is improved, the more difficult it is. If the 1,000-fold critical hit is not triggered, Luo Mu doesn't know how long it will take him to reach this level. Really lucky. But this luck was almost interrupted by someone. As the saying goes, cutting off someone's financial path is tantamount to killing their parents. What's more, it was an unprecedented thousandfold critical hit when the light flashed. Thinking of this, Luo Mu's eyes instantly turned cold. Although he was immersed in meditation, he would still be able to sense if there was a big movement. So he probably knew what was happening behind him. Luo Mu turned around slowly. There was still a person lying in front of him. After the knife was withdrawn, this person was also pardoned. He tried to stand up, but because he was the closest, he was already seriously injured and had broken countless bones. He raised his head and looked into Luo Mu's eyes. He felt like he was falling into an ice cellar. The cold eyes full of murderous intent made him smell the smell of death instantly. "Did you touch me just now?" Luo Mu spoke. His voice was indifferent. "I." Before he finished speaking, a knife flashed. A head flew up and rolled on the ground until it stopped at Qi Yun's feet. His eyes were wide open, full of fear. Blood gushed out of the neck and soon dyed the ground red. And this scene also made everyone retreat subconsciously. Although they knew that they would definitely see blood today, after all, no one wanted to be disturbed when they were meditating, but they didn't expect it to come so quickly. Junior brother Lin. Among the people from Kaming Daozong, those who had a good relationship with him shouted sadly. Qi Yun's eyes twitched. It seems that this outer palace disciple has a very bad temper. He turned around and killed people. "Friend, we were wrong in this matter. We apologize to you. Now that you have killed someone, how about we write off our relationship?" Although he was angry, Qi Yun's mind was still clear now. He had no ability to take revenge at all. If he rushed forward recklessly, he would only end up dead. As long as the Green Mountains are there, there is no need to worry about the lack of firewood. As long as he can leave alive today, there will definitely be a chance for revenge in the future. "Junior brother is dead. Won't you avenge him? It was you who drove him here." Luo Mu's face was calm. "Aren't you afraid that he will be alone down there, lonely and lonely?" Hearing this, Qi Yun clenched his hands subconsciously. He heard the killing intent. It seems that today's matter is difficult to settle peacefully. "Friend, we can't choose the momentary impulse. We should turn hostility into friendship, which will benefit both sides. After all, my Kaming Dao sect is still famous and has some status in Fengdu County. Qi Yun can only move out of the sect now, trying to make Luo Mu be cautious. However, Luo Mu did not show any hesitation. On the contrary, his eyes actually brightened a little, as if he was interested. "Kaming Daozong, I have heard that they hold 2 swords and follow the path of fast sword flow. In that case, I will give you a chance to live. I will not use the sword force. If you can survive within 10 breaths, I will let you go." Luo Mu said slowly. Killing directly is not meaningful. It is better to squeeze the value and use it to the limit. He has not seen the double sword flow yet. If he is inspired, he may be able to gain insights. "What?" Hearing this, everyone present was shocked. "No sword force? That is not cutting off one arm. No, it is both arms. Without sword force. This outer palace disciple is only a 5th layer of the true acupoint realm. And there are 23 people in Kaming Daozong. One is a 9th layer of the true acupoint realm. There are 5 above the 6th layer. Such strength is not something that the 5th layer can contend with." "You said it." Qi Yun came back to his senses and said hurriedly, "The existence of the sword force is too domineering, but without the sword force, he does not think he will be weaker than this person." "Of course." Luo Mu smiled slightly. "Brothers, did you hear it?" Qi Yun shouted. "I heard it." All the disciples gritted their teeth, and their eyes revealed the hope of life. 10 breaths. Just hold on for 10 breaths. It will definitely work. 10. Luo Mu began to count down. "Kill." All the disciples rushed towards Luo Mu, waving the 2 swords in his hands. However, Luo Mu drew his sword. Extreme sword style. Boom. In an instant, countless sword shadows flashed and swept across. The sword sect disciples who were just running stopped one after another. They even kept the posture of swinging the sword. Just the next second. Crash. Everyone shattered directly. Broken organs, blood and flesh flowed all over the ground, and the strong smell of blood quickly spread all around. Wow. Seeing this scene, some people couldn't help but vomit. Fear and shock appeared in their eyes. God knows what they saw. Just one knife. 23 martial artists, including many above the 6th layer of the true acupoint realm, died instantly. There was no room for struggle or resistance. Chapter 38. The breeze blew slowly, but it couldn't blow away the strong smell of blood. In front of the knife mark, the ground was already covered with scarlet. The blood gathered and turned into a stream, soaking Qi Yun's shoes. His face was pale and his body was shaking. One knife. Just one knife. All his fellow disciples were dead. No, not one knife. But in an instant, nearly 100 knives were cut. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a complete corpse. At this moment, He finally understood why this person dared to say that he didn't need to use the knife. It turned out that he had mastered such a terrible knife method. It was definitely an extremely rare profound rank high grade, and he only practiced low grade. 9. The voice sounded again, like a nightmare. It woke Qi-yun up. His scalp was numb and his back was cold. Luo Mu held the knife and walked forward step by step. Every step made Qi-yun tremble. 8. Qi-yun could no longer bear this kind of oppression, so he drew his sword and rushed towards Luo Mu. Double Moon Sword Art, a Moon Shadow and Flowing Frost. As the leader and the only one in the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm, Qi-yun's strength was naturally unquestionable. The sword in his hand was obviously stronger, more threatening. Not bad. Luo Mu's eyes lit up slightly, but it was just not bad. Clang, clang, clang. In just half a breath, the two swords collided dozens of times. How could it be? Qi-yun trembled inwardly. The double moon sword art was not only fast, but also weird, and many of the attack angles were very tricky. But when he exerted his full strength, it was actually blocked. Too slow. A cold voice sounded, and Qi-yun subconsciously looked at Luo Mu. That indifferent look. It made Qi-yun afraid and angry at the same time. He had always been the only one who despised others, so when had he ever been despised like this? However, just when he was about to attack again, Luo Mu drew his sword. The sword flashed continuously, so fast that no one present could see it clearly. Qi-yun held two swords to block, but he couldn't keep up. He could only retreat continuously, and there were dense scars on his body. The blood kept flowing. Swish. In the 4th breath, Luo Mu's sword slashed across Qi-yun's neck, and Qi-yun also stopped. The long sword in his hand slipped. He raised his hand and touched his neck in fear and disbelief, where it was warm. Your sword is so slow, and your style of action dares to be so domineering? Waste of time. Luo Mu sheathed the sword and passed by Qi-yun. I thought this sword technique of the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm would be more interesting, but after the fight, it was just like that. It was of average value. The sect will definitely avenge me, Qi-yun said with difficulty. His voice was full of resentment. He wanted to turn his head and take another look at Luo Mu, but his perspective suddenly changed. Then he fell into eternal darkness. The headless body fell to the ground with a bang. Whoosh! More than 20 gray mists flew out from the flesh and blood on the ground, merged into Luo Mu's body, and gradually turned into whooshing saber chi. Ding! You used the whooshing sword sutra to kill 24 people in a row, triggered a critical hit, and gained 20 times the harvest. In an instant, the number of saber chi increased greatly. The total number has reached 200. It is not far from the first glance. And there are some new insights about the extreme sword style in my mind. Not bad. Luo Mu nodded slightly. These people were not killed in vain, and there was some harvest. Then he glanced at the others, and Luo Mu left slowly. After 1,000 times of critical hit, the mystery in the knife marks was naturally understood by him, and there was nothing left. So there was no need to stay here any longer. It was a pity that the other knife marks were severely damaged, and the Dao rhyme inside dissipated. Otherwise, he might be able to directly improve the knife momentum to the state of perfection here. As for Qi-yun's last words, Luo Mu didn't take it to heart at all. The Kaming Sword Sect, which is not even as good as the profound Heaven Sword Sect, dares to threaten the disciples of the Academy. If the Kaming Sword Sect dares to go to the Academy to cause trouble, then tomorrow on the map of Fengdu County, the Kaming Sword Sect will disappear forever. Although the Academy is a school, it is usually quiet and low-key, but if you really provoke it, it will let the world know what a behemoth is. After Luo Mu left, everyone completely relaxed and wiped their cold sweat. Too scary. Without using the sword force, you can easily kill the 9th layer martial artist of the true acupoint realm. If you use it, can you kill even the Spirit Sea realm? In this regard, everyone hesitated for a moment and gave a positive answer. Spirit Sea realm must die too. After all, that is 80% of the sword force, not 10% or 20%. The further the sword force is, the harder it is to comprehend, but at the same time, the power is greatly increased. Very scary. This is the Academy. Someone's voice was shocked. Even an outer palace disciple is so strong. Don't look at the news of the rise of various sects everywhere. It's just that the Academy is relatively low-key. Yes. What happened today really taught them a lesson. The Academy is not old at all. It is still an unshakable giant. If there are children in the future, I still have to find a way to send them to the Academy. Leave Zhanwang Gorge. Luo Mu rode on the spirit horse and ran towards the Academy. What surprised him was that the spirit horse was tied in such an obvious place, but no one took it away. When I set foot in the Spirit Sea realm, the gap with the inner palace monsters will be almost gone. Luo Mu's eyes were deep. Chung Qingman said that the top monsters in the inner palace have basically set foot in the Spirit Sea realm and practiced profound rank high-grade martial arts and have the momentum of martial Dao. And now, He has made up for the gaps in all aspects one by one, even in some aspects, stronger. For example, 80% of the sword force. This is not something that everyone can have. It is so difficult to even comprehend it, let alone to reach such a high level. Once it is used, the power is extremely terrifying. Luo Mu feels that he can easily kill the martial artist of the second layer of Spirit Sea Realm. This is not an exaggeration, but the truth. According to Chengqing Man, even those in the inner palace who have the martial Dao force basically have only 10% or 20% of the attainment. Only the top 5 at present may have a higher level, because they have been in seclusion for many years, and no one knows how much their specific attainments are. Since the road has come to this rank 1 section, Luo Mu naturally cannot set his goal in the top 100. Rather, the first. Not only is the reward the most generous, it is irresistible. There are also various subsequent benefits brought by the first place. Shake his head slightly. Luo Mu dispersed his distracting thoughts, and the most urgent task was to return to the academy as soon as possible, practice with peace of mind, and break through the realm. Calculated, there are about 22 days left. Dedicate yourself wholeheartedly. There should be a chance to go to the Spirit Sea Realm. Unknowingly, they came to a shady place. Sigh. The spirit horse slowly stopped, and Luo Mu narrowed his eyes. Not far ahead, there were 2 figures standing on the branches. They were covered in black robes. His face and figure could not be seen clearly, but a pair of eyes were staring at him. Closely. Chapter 39. His eyes were motionless, not shifting at all, always on him. Obviously, the target was him. Luo Mu jumped off the spirit horse, and the spirit horse also walked to the side very smartly. After a little sensing, the 2 people blocking the road were not very strong. That is, they were only in the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm, just like the disciple of the sword sect. What made Luo Mu puzzled was that he should not have offended anyone, right? He avenged his grudges on the spot, just like just now. Even if someone came to seek revenge later, it would not be so fast. Changle Academy, Outer Palace disciple, Luo Mu. One of them spoke, true acupoint realm 5th layer. He realized the great trend of martial Dao, talent is a monster. Hearing this, Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly. It seems that they are waiting for him halfway, and they even know his name. Who are you? Luo Mu put his right hand on the hilt of the knife. As the saying goes, those who come with bad intentions will not come with good intentions. These 2 people did not even show their faces. It doesn't look like a serious thing. And he smelled a familiar smell on these 2 people, similar to the demon Dao martial artists in the previous base. If you want to know, just go forward. My elders have been waiting for a long time. The man replied. What if I don't go? Luo Mu narrowed his eyes slightly. In this life, there are many choices. If you grasp some choices, you will benefit for life. The corners of the man's mouth under the mask rose slightly. We come with sincerity. Why not try to believe it once? The words fell. The atmosphere in the forest suddenly became quiet. Only the subtle sound of the spirit horse chewing grass leaves can be heard next to it. Suddenly there was a wind, and the fallen leaves flew all over the ground. Boring. Luo Mu took a deep breath and uttered these 2 words. The next second, swish, the long sword was unsheathed. The terrifying sword light instantly swept the entire forest path. Squeak. The long sword returned to the sheath. It was only half a breath, and its position seemed to have never moved. Crash. Before the 2 could react, they were shattered all over the ground. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Luo Mu's eyes were indifferent. He blocked the road for no reason, couldn't speak clearly, and was mysterious. He didn't have the patience for that. In addition, the smell of these 2 people was very similar to that in the base at the beginning, basically Demon Dao. Then we couldn't go forward. Who knows if there are traps or something? Demon Dao appeared here. It's probably not a good thing. Just do it directly. How dare you? A strong breath surged from the front. The spirit horse was so scared that its legs softened and fell to the ground. Luo Mu stood still, but his black hair was blown by this breath. I saw a figure walking in front. There was a thick black air surrounding him. Wherever the black air touched, whether it was the ground or the trees, it would be corroded, which was shocking. It's Demon Dao. Luo Mu's eyes were deep, and it is Spirit Sea Realm. Spirit Sea Realm martial artist gave birth to true Qi, and because of the skills, Demon Dao will become equally powerful demonic energy. Luo Mu didn't expect that there are Demon Dao from Spirit Sea Realm. Are these Demon Dao here because of the stronghold? Not likely, because all the Demon Dao martial artists in the stronghold were killed. No one was left alive, so the news about him could not be spread. Wait, Luo Mu remembered what the 2 people said just now. Among them, the martial Dao's great trend was mentioned. And when he showed the martial Dao's great trend, it was in Xianxia City. Our sect came with good intentions, and you dared to draw your sword and kill people? The figure spoke. The demonic energy around him became a little thinner, and his true appearance was revealed. The figure was a middle-aged man. His skin was pale and bloodless. On his left cheek, there was a red moon tattoo. Red Moon Demon Cult. Luo Mu narrowed his eyes slightly. In the territory of the dynasty, there are 3 great demon cults. Red Moon is one of them. They believe in the legendary Red Moon Demon God. Those in the previous base belonged to the Red Moon Demon Cult, but they were not real believers. And the one in front of him, there was a prominent tattoo on his face. Tattoos are not casual tattoos, and it is said that they have special powers. I am asking you a question? The middle-aged man's voice was cold and murderous. These 2 people are not ordinary subordinates. They are his apprentices. As a result, they were killed directly in just a moment of distraction. There was no chance to react. These 2 people can't even speak clearly. Living in the world is a waste of air and resources. I'm helping you get rid of them out of kindness. How can you blame me? Luo Mu's mouth curled up slightly. Sharp-tongued. The middle-aged man's face suddenly darkened. After all, he is his apprentice, and he knows what kind of character the apprentice has. Sometimes he likes to say half a sentence and leave the other half. But he didn't care too much. But who would have thought that he would meet such an impatient person today? Don't think that you are invincible just because you have realized the great trend of martial Tao. The middle-aged man stopped thinking and his voice became cold. Even if I can rival the ordinary Spirit Sea, I am not a newcomer to the Spirit Sea, but the Spirit Sea Realm 4th layer. Suppressing you is just a matter of raising my hand. Now I give you 2 choices. The first is to join our sect and accept the demon species, then I will forget about today's matter, and we will be colleagues in the future. The second. The middle-aged man took a deep breath. That is death. Hearing this, Luo Mu understood immediately. Today, this group of demon Dao came to block the road because I performed too well in Xianxia City. They came to the academy halfway to rob people. It was not about the base. What made Luo Mu a little confused was when did these people start following me? If they followed me when I left Xianxia City, then they should know what happened in Zhanwang Gorge today. With 80% of the sword power and the profound rank high-grade Wuxing Sword Sutra, unless this person also has the martial Dao power, even if he is in the Spirit Sea Realm 4th layer, he will probably be killed on the spot. Tell me your choice. The middle-aged man didn't have much patience. The death of the 2 disciples made him full of murderous intent towards Luo Mu. It's not that he likes his disciples so much, but a puppet. He has been training for so long, preparing to refine it into a puppet, but now it's burned. In the words of the camp, I grew up in the light since I was a child. Luo Mu spread his hands. A smile appeared on his face. If you are stubborn, then die. The middle-aged man understood. He no longer concealed the murderous intent in his eyes and rushed directly towards Luo Mu. The demonic energy surged, like a dark cloud pressing down on the city. Luo Mu took a half step behind his left leg, leaned forward slightly, and showed a sword-drawing posture. At the same time, boom, a full 80% of the sword power rushed out, covering hundreds of meters in radius. Crack. Large tracts of ancient trees could not withstand this momentum and collapsed one after another, and dense knife marks appeared on the ground. What? The middle-aged man, who was originally full of murderous intent, stopped in his tracks instantly. It felt like he was trapped in a swamp. What is this? The middle-aged man looked up, with disbelief in his eyes. He knew that Luo Mu had realized the knife force. But according to the information, it was only 10% of the knife force. Maybe he could compete with the martial artist who had just entered the Spirit Sea. But he definitely couldn't compete with him, who was in the 4th layer of the Spirit Sea realm. But now, this is not even 10% of the knife force. At least 80%. Chapter 40. 80%. The demon cult elder thought he was hallucinating for a moment. He was under an illusion, but he rubbed his eyes. He felt it carefully. It was extremely real. It was indeed 80% of the sword power. But how could it be possible? Even the hall masters of the profound core realm in the demon cult may not have such a high level of attainment. And the holder in front of him was only the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm. The demon cult elder subconsciously took a step back, and his original confidence was gone at this moment. He was confident that he could easily suppress Luo Mu, who had 10% of the sword power. But if it was 80%, it would be impossible. The gap between the two was as big as the sky and the earth. Even, there was a high probability that he would die. Not far away, Luo Mu held the hilt of the sword with his right hand. The 200 lifeless saber chi in his body were all hidden in the sheath and suppressed to the limit. Sword drawing style. The strongest style in the lifeless sword sutra, at present. Although there is still very little Wuxing saber chi now, far from reaching the limit of 1,000 or even higher. But there is an increase of 80% of the sword power. It is already very terrifying. Cut. The tongue burst out spring thunder, resounding through the forest. Luo Mu drew his sword. It is difficult to describe what kind of sword this is. Like an endless river of saber chi, it surged out of the sheath, spanning the void, pouring out for thousands of miles, carrying the terrifying momentum that swept across the 8 wastelands and the 6 directions. It directly fell on the head of the demon cult elder. The pupils of the demon cult elder shrank suddenly. He never thought that Luo Mu had such a terrifying sword technique in addition to his terrifying sword power attainments. This is definitely not the power of a profound rank middle grade sword technique. At least it has reached high grade. The red moon shines. The light is extinguished. There was no time to think about it, and the demon cult elder performed a defensive move. After all, it was the spirit sea realm, so he didn't have time to react. It was just that he was trapped in the sword's force, like being stuck in a quagmire, and he couldn't dodge at all. He could only choose to resist. The red moon tattoo on his face also lit up. It was obvious that the demon cult elder's strength had increased a bit, and a red semicircular light shield appeared around the demon cult elder, covering him. Boom. The sword light fell. The light shield trembled wildly. Blocked? The demon cult elder was happy, but then his face changed drastically. Dense cracks appeared at the intersection, spreading like a spider web. Crack. In just half a breath, the light shield completely collapsed. The terrifying sword light came down on his head. No. The demon cult elder roared in despair. He had finally cultivated to the spirit sea realm, and in the future he could even step into the Shindan. But now he was going to be killed by a small Xianxia realm. How unwilling. Boom. The ground shook wildly. Dust and smoke rose up. Sand and rocks flew everywhere. When the dust and smoke dissipated, there was only a huge and deep crack left on the spot. The demon cult elder was in it. However, the man had been split into 2 halves, but even so, he did not die immediately. The red moon tattoo on his face flickered. It seemed that a special and strange power was surging. This power tried to pull the body of the demon cult elder, which was split into 2 halves, back together again. But the lifeless saber chi was tempered by the death of the living creatures after death. In addition to the domineering power of the sword, it can also devour vitality. As a result, the demon cult elder did not hold on until his body closed. His vitality had been consumed in advance. It was visible to the naked eye that the unwilling eyes of the demon cult elder had completely lost their luster. Is this the demon Dao? It's really weird. Luo Mu looked at the demon cult elder in the crack and frowned slightly. His body was split in half. He was not dead yet. If it weren't for his lifeless saber chi, which could devour vitality, if he had given this person a little more time, he might have been able to stand up again. It should be because of the tattoo or the red moon magic. Luo Mu thought in his heart. The world is so big that there are all kinds of things. There are countless heroes, and I have to be vigilant and respectful at all times. Don't be arrogant, otherwise it's easy to capsize in the gutter. This scene made Luo Mu's slightly floating state of mind completely settled. A thick gray mist flew out of the corpse of the demon cult elder and merged into Luo Mu's body. The death intention that the spirit sea realm strong can provide is very huge, far beyond the true acupoint realm. So Luo Mu directly had a full 40 lifeless saber chi. Ding! You used the lifeless sword sutra to kill a spirit sea realm strongman, triggering a critical hit, and get 100 times the reward. In his mind, the system prompt sounded. 100 times? Luo Mu was surprised. It is equivalent to killing 100 spirit sea realm martial artists. Wouldn't that mean that you can achieve perfection directly? No, it means that you have reached the limit. Boom. In an instant, the death will in the body increased greatly, and it was continuously transformed into the lifeless saber chi, which directly caused the number of lifeless saber chi to surge to 1,000. But after reaching 1,000, it stopped. The death will was not completely transformed. On the contrary, there were still many. It seems that the endurance of the physical body has reached its limit. Luo Mu raised his arm. From time to time, there would be flashes of knife light under the skin, which were densely packed lifeless saber chi. Lifeless saber chi is transformed in the body and nourished by chi and blood. Therefore, the physical body of the practitioner must be strong. It seems that I have to practice the Xian Yang tyrant body skill to perfection as soon as possible. Only in this way can I bear more lifeless saber chi, and then there will be a full 3,000 lifeless saber chi. Luo Mu's eyes were fiery. He now has enough death will, and he only lacks physical strength. Thinking, Luo Mu squatted down. He chopped off the head of the demon cult elder and found a storage ring, but he didn't open it to check it for the time being. He planned to sort it out after returning. Luo Mu didn't let go of the heads of the other 2. When he attacked, he would still avoid the heads accurately, so as not to chop them so hard that they couldn't be distinguished. Chapter 41. Shortly after Luo Mu left, a Taoist figure slowly appeared. With his hands crossed in his sleeves, although his hair was white, his eyes were vigorous. If Luo Mu was still here, he would definitely recognize this person. Uncle Gong, the housekeeper in Changqingman's house. 80% of the sword power, and the sword method that cuts off life. Uncle Gong looked at the direction where Luo Mu left and muttered to himself. Even he couldn't help but show shock in his eyes. In his life, he had seen too many geniuses and monsters, but this was the first time he had seen such a terrifying growth rate. After only 5 days of observation in Zhangwang Gorge, he directly increased the sword power from 10% to 80%. If other knife marks had not been severely damaged, perhaps he could have achieved 100% perfection. It was really exaggerated. No wonder, miss, you want to send me to protect secretly. This boy is indeed qualified. Uncle Gong looked at the blood all over the ground. In fact, this group of demon Dao followed Luo Mu shortly after he left Xianxia City. It was just that he revealed a little bit of his aura, and this group of demon Dao mistakenly thought that there was a master who was enlightened in Zhangwang Gorge, so they did not go in. Otherwise, if they saw 80% of the sword power today, they would not dare to block the way here. But even if there is not 80% of the sword power, only 10%, this boy will not die in the hands of the demon elder. Uncle Gong squatted down and touched the cracks on the ground. Even if saber chi has been recovered, there is still a sense of death on the ground. This sword technique should be the Wuxing Sword Sutra of Changle Academy, but the power is not right. It has reached profound rank high grade. With this sword technique, it is enough to deal with Spirit Sea Realm. Uncle Gong couldn't help but nod. It is really shocking that he has such a strong martial Dao foundation in the true acupoint realm. There are many geniuses and monsters in this world, but there are very few who can really grow up. Luo Mu is alive today, and even directly crosses the border to kill Spirit Sea Realm, which means he is not a short-lived person. He has great potential and a promising future. Miss, your vision is still good. A smile appeared on Uncle Gong's face. Half a day later, Luo Mu finally returned to the academy. He relaxed a little. Knowing that he had been targeted by the Red Moon Demon cult, it was impossible for him to no longer have a sense of crisis. This time he came to the Spirit Sea Realm. I don't know what level of master he will be next time, so I have to hurry up to become stronger and improve my strength, not just for the academy ceremony. Treasure Pavilion. A place in the academy specifically used to exchange contribution points and resources. Luo Mu went straight here. In the previous space, he almost got nearly 70,000 contribution points. Now he killed 2 true acupoint 9th layer, plus a Spirit Sea Realm 4th layer. Adding up, it is estimated that there are probably 200,000, right? Of course, this is Luo Mu's own estimate. The exact number is not clear. Hello, I have some materials that need to be exchanged for exchange points. Luo Mu said. Okay. The disciple of the treasure pavilion nodded. Then Luo Mu took out a bunch of heads from the storage ring. He directly filled the counter. The strong smell of blood instantly filled the entire treasure pavilion. It can be seen with the naked eye that the eyes of the disciples of the treasure pavilion changed from calm to stunned, and then to shocked. The whole person even took a step back in fear. At this time, there were still many people in the treasure pavilion, and they were all shocked by this scene. My God, how can there be so many heads? It seems that they are all the heads of Demon Dao martial artists. This guy actually killed so many Demon Dao. The sound of gasping for air rang out. These Demon Dao had already died, but because they were kept in the storage ring, they still had a strong aura on their bodies, and it can be clearly felt that they were at the level of the true acupoint realm. This is the first layer of the true acupoint realm, and that is the 3rd layer. Luo Mu introduced them to the treasure pavilion disciple like a treasure. The realm is the 1st layer, so the contribution points are also quite different. Luo Mu is still very short of cultivation resources. Naturally, he can't waste any of them. A little more here, a little more there. Maybe it's enough to exchange for a resource. By the way, this is a demon elder who was just killed today. Spirit Sea Realm 4th layer. Luo Mu specifically took out the head of the demon elder and put it in front of the treasure pavilion disciple. The head was split into 2. At this moment, it was forcibly put together. Gulu. The disciple of the treasure pavilion swallowed his saliva subconsciously. God knows what he heard. Demon cult elder? Spirit Sea Realm 4th layer. What a joke. A martial artist of this level. Can you, a 5th layer of the true acupoint realm, kill him? The disciple of the treasure pavilion subconsciously thought Luo Mu was lying. But the remaining demonic energy on the head could not be false. It is indeed the 4th layer of the Spirit Sea Realm. Suddenly a voice sounded. The disciple of the treasure pavilion quickly stepped back and bowed, saying, Sir Steward. A man in a white robe came over. His temples were slightly gray. His strength was also very strong, definitely starting from the Spirit Sea Realm. The sharp sword technique directly split it in 2. Did you really kill it? The steward glanced at Luo Mu. It was just a fluke. Luo Mu looked calm. He was too lazy to explain. The demon Dao head of the 4th layer of the Spirit Sea Realm is worth 100,000 points. A total of 200,000 contribution points. The deacon did not inquire too much. As long as the head belongs to the demon Dao martial artist, nothing else matters. 200,000. The eyes of the others suddenly showed a strong envy. I wish it was me standing there at this moment. Although the demon Dao martial artist's head is valuable, it is not so easy to kill. Each of them is treacherous and vicious. Many times, if you are not careful, you will die. And 200,000. How long will it take for me to save it? What's your name? The deacon asked casually. Luo Mu. Luo Mu? The deacon suddenly looked up. It seemed that he was observing Luo Mu. This made Luo Mu a little confused. Why did the deacon's reaction seem to know him? So it's you. I can understand that. The deacon smiled for the first time. Do you have anything to exchange? Luo Mu was puzzled, but he didn't think much about it. Nodded. What's the price of the essence of the sun? 10,000 per copy. Hiss. It's really expensive. In the academy, the price of martial arts is not expensive because of the benefits, but these cultivation resources are not discounted. One copy is 10,000. For a normal person to practice Xianxia hegemony body skill to perfection, he needs to start with 300 or 400 copies. You can imagine how high the cost of cultivation is. Fortunately, I have a critical hit. It can greatly save resources. No need to spend so much. 10 copies. Luo Mu thought about it and said, as long as the luck is not too bad, 10 copies should be enough. Okay. The deacon made a deduction. Anything else? 1 yuan sui dan too. Luo Mu said. The silver grain grass that Cheng Qingman gave him before could only be cultivated to the 8th layer of the true acupoint realm, so he still needed resources to break through to the 9th layer. The yuan sui dan is the same as the pu yuan dan, which is specially used to impact the acupoints. It's just that the yuan sui dan is more powerful. The price is naturally more expensive. 80,000 per pill. Not everyone can afford it. No need for the rest. Leave 20,000. Just in case you need it later, you won't be left with nothing. Okay. The deacon nodded. He turned around to get it. However, when the deacon came back, he had 3 jade boxes in his hand. The first jade box contained 10 portions of the essence of the sun, and the second jade box contained the yuan sui dan. As for the third one, Luo Mu didn't understand. Could it be that if you spend too much, you get a gift? This is the reward from the academy for challengers. The deacon smiled slightly. 3rd grade. Spirit Sedan. Chapter 42. Spirit Sea Pill? Hearing these 3 words, Luo Mu's breathing became heavy. Spirit Sea Pill is a 3rd grade treasure pill. It is higher than Piyuan Pill and Yuan Sui Pill and is higher than 1st grade. Its function is to increase the success rate of martial artists breaking through to Spirit Sea realm. It can increase it by at least 30%. 30%. It doesn't sound like much, but it is actually very high. In the outside world, a Spirit Sea Pill is enough to be auctioned at an unimaginable sky-high price. Even in the academy, it is estimated that it takes 400,000 or 500,000 contribution points to exchange for one. I forgot about this. Taking a deep breath, Luo Mu calmed down and a smile appeared on his face. In order to motivate students to practice, the academy naturally has many reward systems. For example, there will be rewards for being on various lists. But he didn't expect that the reward for just being on the Qianlong list would be so generous. It's directly a 3rd grade Spirit Sea Pill. Of course, this may also have something to do with his high ranking. After all, he is 17th. At this moment, Luo Mu also understood why the deacon suddenly raised his head after he said his name. It was all because of the hidden dragon list. With the Myriad Manifestations Pavilion, the news of the list change has always spread very quickly. The academy has already learned about it. I went to look for you a few days ago, but you were not at your residence. The deacon smiled. I have been out and just came back today. Luo Mu put away the 3 jade boxes. Keep practicing, the ceremony is coming soon, and the outer palace depends on you. The deacon said, I will work hard. Luo Mu smiled and turned away. Sir Deacon, who is he? Why give him the Spirit Sea Pill? Isn't this thing specially for those who are in the top 20 of the Hidden Dragon list? The disciple of the Treasure Pavilion asked in confusion. And those who can enter the top 20 are basically disciples of the Inner Palace. The deacon glanced at him and said, You will know in a few days. It hasn't been long since he got the news. So this matter has not spread in the Outer Palace yet. But it should be soon. The Outer Palace finally produced a demon who possessed the great power of martial Dao in the true acupoint realm. So how could they give up the opportunity to create momentum? With this boy here, the ceremony will at least have more confidence. The deacon thought to himself, the Outer Palace has been in decline for too long, and fewer people have been able to enter the top 100 in recent years, and it is almost falling to double digits. And this time, the Inner Palace has produced many demons again. I am really afraid that even double digits cannot be maintained. It has become the single digit again at the worst time. The Outer Palace is full of common people, and their own cultivation resources are not as good as those of the heirs of the princes in the Inner Palace. If they perform too poorly, the resources tilted to the Outer Palace in the future will inevitably be reduced. This is a bad trend. When I returned to my residence, it was a mess. It was not that someone broke in, but it was like this before leaving, and it was destroyed by practicing. Luo Mu only focused on efficiency and cultivation. Naturally, he would not care about whether it was clean or tidy. Open the window. Ventilate. Luo Mu then sat cross-legged on the bed. He did not open the things he exchanged from the treasure pavilion immediately, but took out the storage ring of the demon elder. After a person dies, the spiritual imprint in the storage ring will also disappear and become an ownerless thing. Luo Mu dripped blood to recognize the owner and probed his consciousness. His eyebrows were slightly raised. It is worthy of being a storage ring of the spirit sea realm. There are quite a lot of things. I just don't know if there are any valuable ones. Prime stones. In the corner of the storage ring, Luo Mu saw a pile of gray-white stones. Prime stones. Minerals containing the essence of heaven and earth. Human race martial artist. After opening the 9 apertures and the 9 apertures unified harmony, you can absorb the essence of heaven and earth into your body. The essence and blood converge at the Dantian. Open up the spirit sea. Birth true qi. The power quality of true qi is far higher than that of blood. The power of martial arts driven by blood and blood is completely different from that driven by true qi. The gap between the two is very large. So if there is no absolute advantage in other aspects, the martial artist of the true acupoint realm will never be able to defeat the spirit sea realm. He is a rare exception. Not bad. There are actually 30 pieces. Luo Mu nodded with satisfaction. In this way, after entering the spirit sea realm, he will not lack cultivation resources in a short period of time. Then he began to look through other things. There are quite a lot of medicine bottles, but they are empty. Most of them are empty. Obviously they have been used up. The only one that is not empty seems to be poison. Luo Mu did not open it. Afraid of being tricked. The first chapter of the 9-Li Poison Classic, The Secret Record of the Human Puppet, and the 7 Evils Netherworld Palm. Luo Mu found 3 more secret books. He flipped through them casually and suddenly became interested. The 9-Li Poison Classic, as the name suggests, records a large number of poisonous substances in the world, most of which Luo Mu had never heard of before. No wonder Demon Dao is so good at using poison that he even made a book on poison. This is just the first chapter. I don't know what the middle and last chapters are about. Could it be the method of making poison? Luo Mu thought about it. At the same time, he decided to take a good look at it and write it down when he has time. In the future, he will definitely meet more powerful Demon Dao masters. Only by knowing yourself and the enemy can you win every battle. The secret record of human puppet, as the name suggests, is a secret method of refining puppets. It's just that the materials used are not ordinary metals and minerals, but people. This secret method is a bit cruel. It's hard to accept if you are not a Demon Dao, and the success rate is relatively low. But once it is refined, the strength of the human puppet can not only be perfectly preserved, but even a little stronger than before. Luo Mu touched his chin. Although it is cruel and bloody, it is not unacceptable to him. Keep it. What if it is useful in the future? The last, 7 Evils Netherworld Palm, is nothing special. It's just a profound rank low-grade Demon Dao martial arts. There is no need to practice it. It's not even easy to sell. After sorting out the storage ring, Luo Mu's consciousness withdrew. Next, it's time to start formal practice. Hurry up and improve your cultivation. Try to practice to the spirit sea realm in one go. Chapter 43. Time flies, and the days go by in a flash. 10 days have passed without us noticing. There are only 12 days left before the academy ceremony. Changel Academy has become extremely lively now. There are students everywhere. Some are out of retreat, and the other part is traveling abroad and rushing back. The academy usually feels a little deserted, but I didn't expect that everyone would come out once the ceremony started. Some people were amazed. Our Changel Academy is located in the center of the 7 counties. Anyone who wants to practice martial arts will basically consider the academy first. How could there be few people? It's just that practice is up to the individual. Everyone has their own way of practice, and they may not stay in the academy. That's right. Many people nodded. By the way, have you heard about the recent news? What news? It seems that there is an extraordinary person in our outer palace. He has comprehended the great trend of martial Dao in the 5th layer of the true acupoint realm and has entered the top 20 of the hidden dragon list. Are you kidding me? The true acupoint realm comprehended the great trend of martial Dao? Even the evildoers in the inner palace can't do this. Why should I lie to you? Go and look at the hidden dragon list yourself. It seems that his name is Luo Mu. He didn't lie. This is indeed true. I heard my teacher say it. Hiss. Hearing this, the sound of sucking in cold air suddenly came one after another. Generally speaking, no matter how evil the talent is, it can only be comprehended after entering the spirit sea realm. Because with each major realm upgrade, the understanding of martial Dao will also undergo a qualitative change. And the true acupoint realm belongs to the early stage of martial Dao. The foundation is not enough to support it. I didn't expect that someone could really do it, and it was in the outer palace. Damn it. Who said that our outer palace disciples are not as good as the inner palace disciples? This Luo, Pastor Brother's talent is not inferior to that of the inner palace disciples, and even stronger. Not bad. Everyone nodded immediately. Excitement gradually appeared on their faces. Since the academy has set up the inner palace and the outer palace, there must be contradictions between the two, which is unavoidable. It's a pity that this Luo Junior Brother's realm is a little lower, only the true acupoint realm. If he sets foot in the Spirit Sea, he may not be able to enter the top 30. Someone said. Yes, although the true acupoint realm has realized the martial Dao trend, the opponents are not all in the true acupoint realm. Those monsters in the inner palace have already entered the Spirit Sea and have the martial Dao trend. It's okay, no matter what, at least there is no problem in the top 100. Our usual goal is to maintain double digits, regardless of the specific ranking. Anyway, the top 30 are basically from the inner palace, and the outer palace can't get involved at all. Like some time ago, the strongest disciple in the outer palace, just defeated by the inner palace who is temporarily ranked 35th. This incident made the outer palace depressed for a long time. I didn't expect the gap was still so big. Fortunately, there was junior brother Luo, who finally regained some confidence for the outer palace in another aspect. The back mountain of the academy, the top of a majestic peak. The surrounding sea of clouds was rolling, quite spectacular. There was a figure sitting cross-legged, bare upper body, revealing full and strong muscles. The most amazing thing was that there was a layer of extremely rich fiery red mist floating on the skin, which kept flowing with the breath of the figure. Sometimes it gathered, sometimes it dispersed. It was like a group of fire clouds. At a certain moment, the figure suddenly opened his eyes. The powerful breath swept around directly, and the sand and stones flew. Perfect. Luo Mu raised his mouth slightly and stood up. This is a word of 3 levels. 10 days of immersive practice. The harvest is extremely huge. The first is cultivation. With the help of the remaining silver grain grass and Yuan Sui Dan, he successfully stepped into the 9th layer of the true acupoint realm. The second is Xianxia Tyrant Body Skill. Although there is no particularly high critical hit, after using up 10 portions of the essence of the Yang, it has been cultivated to the state of perfection. Both the physical strength and the external qi have been greatly improved. Luo Mu used the spirit knife to test it. Before, the spirit knife could make his body feel torn, but now it is completely gone. If he uses force, he can't even break the qi. He will be directly bounced away. The third is Wu Sheng Sword Sutra. The physical strength is improved, and the excess death in the body is also transformed into Wu Sheng Saber Qi. A total of 3,000. The swordsmanship has reached the limit. Luo Mu doesn't know how strong he is now. Anyway, if he encounters a demon cult elder like the one before, he doesn't even need to use the sword force, and can easily kill him with the sword technique alone, even if it is a martial artist of the same level with the martial Dao. As long as the attainment is not so high, not more than 20%, he can be defeated with the sword technique alone. You should know that the Wuxing Dao Jing he deduced combines 15 sword techniques, with almost no shortcomings and exaggerated power. Even in the ranks of profound rank high grade, it is absolutely apex level. Ordinary high grade has no comparison at all. Even if there is a 10% or 20% increase in the martial Dao, it is still a little worse. The state is perfect. You can impact the Spirit Sea realm. Luo Mu continued to sit cross-legged. A fiery look also appeared in his eyes. Spirit Sea realm, the third realm of cultivation. Whether in the academy or outside, he is already considered a master. The people and power of many forces may not have such a realm. For example, his family. Luo family. The strongest one is his uncle. 7th layer of the true acupoint realm. Unconsciously, he has surpassed his uncle and is about to reach a realm that only the ancestors of the Luo family have set foot in. Spirit Sea realm. Begin. Luo Mu took a deep breath and took out a jade box from the storage ring. Spirit Sea pill. It can increase the success rate by 30%. His aptitude is average, and he was already struggling when he reached the 3rd layer of the true acupoint realm. If there is no Spirit Sea pill, relying on himself, the success rate of breakthrough should be less than 20%. But now, it's 50 to 50. Opening the jade box, a strong medicinal fragrance suddenly rushed out. Luo Mu just took a slight sip, and he felt that his blood was hot all over. 3rd grade treasure pill. It really lives up to its reputation. Without any hesitation, Luo Mu swallowed the pill into his stomach. At the same time, he controlled it with his mind. Boom. The 9 large orifices in the body that had been opened suddenly burst into bright light like stars. They also sensed each other, and the light turned into a bridge and gradually connected together. Boom. The next second, Luo Mu only felt a sudden shock in his body. It was like opening the eyes of heaven, or some kind of hidden entrance was opened, Both the body and the spirit were completely exposed between heaven and earth. This was an indescribable feeling. In this state, he finally saw the legendary heaven and earth vitality. It was no different from the usual mist, but more elegant. Lead. Without time to think more, Luo Mu controlled the 9 large orifices and began to absorb the vitality wandering around. The vitality had no master. It was easily drawn into the body by the suction from the large orifices and gradually rushed towards the dantian. At the same time, there was the blood in the body, one white and one red, like 2 rolling rivers with a fierce momentum. In the mind, dantian is a hazy and chaotic place. It is also a very mysterious place in the human body. It has the nature of embracing all rivers. Boom. Yuanqi looks elegant and harmless, but the moment it comes into contact with qi and blood, it seems to wake up and becomes extremely violent. Qi and blood are the same. The two are like lions and tigers, neither giving in. They can't merge at all. However, at this moment, Spirit Sidan works. It turns into countless blue lights, which slowly calm down the 2 forces. Gradually absorbed by dantian, it even begins to merge deep in dantian, evolving towards a stronger force. Chapter 44. Time passed by minute by minute. Unknowingly, 5 hours had passed. Luo Mu was still sitting cross-legged. His eyes were closed. At this time, a huge change had taken place in the dantian. The originally dry dantian had now turned into a bright lake. It's done. Luo Mu opened his eyes. A look of relief flashed across his face. Almost, really just a little bit. Just when he was about to succeed, the dantian suddenly became unstable. Fortunately, there was no danger. Ding! You concentrate and focus on breaking through, triggering a critical hit, and gaining 30 times the reward. 30 breakthrough scenes appeared in his mind. Some of them failed, and some succeeded. And most of them failed. It seems that starting from the Spirit Sea realm, the failure rate of breakthroughs has been much higher than the success rate. Luo Mu's eyes moved slightly. This is generally caused by aptitude. In this world, aptitude will not absolutely block your upper limit, but it will affect your cultivation speed and the probability of breakthrough. Strictly speaking, as long as the lifespan is unlimited and the resources are sufficient, everyone can actually reach the peak. But people are not immortal. Ordinary people who can live past 70 years old are considered long-lived. Even Spirit Sea realm martial artists are only over 100 years old. Only by stepping into the realm of opening up the earth, the physical body is reshaped and the origin is transformed, and the lifespan can be greatly increased. Slightly shook his head. Luo Mu dispersed his thoughts. For him, it doesn't matter if the aptitude is average. It only takes 1 success in 30 attempts. However, if the aptitude can be improved, it should not be missed. After all, the better the aptitude, the higher the basic gains from daily practice, which is still necessary. Take a deep breath. Luo Mu slowly stood up. He looked at the sky and a smile appeared on his face. Finally, Spirit Sea realm. This was the realm that he had longed for, but he didn't expect to reach this step in less than 2 months. In this way, there is no obvious gap between him and the inner palace monster. Try the power of true qi. Luo Mu's mind moved slightly. The originally calm Spirit Sea in his body suddenly stirred up waves. And he also took the posture of drawing his sword. He did not use the sword, only true qi and sword skills. Cut. The sword light swept across a small mountain not far away. Boom. The mountain peak shook violently. The entire mountaintop exploded directly, turning into countless rubbles rolling down. Not bad. Luo Mu put away the sword and nodded with satisfaction. It is worthy of true qi. The power of the sword skills displayed with true qi is far beyond the qi and blood. There are still 12 days before the academy ceremony. Continue to practice. Luo Mu retracted his gaze. The Xianxia obtained from the demon cult elder can just support the Spirit Sea realm practice for the next period of time. Buzz. Just when Luo Mu was about to sit down, in the distance, a rainbow light shot up into the sky, and then quickly turned into a light point and dissipated. Rainbow? Luo Mu was startled, and then the word emerged in his mind. I remember that in the miscellaneous studies class, the teacher once said that when high-quality spirit medicine is about to mature, a rainbow phenomenon will appear. The reason is that the medicinal power of the spirit medicine is too powerful and difficult to suppress. I didn't expect that I would have such an opportunity. Luo Mu smiled. So far, he has never encountered any natural treasures. This is the first time. Go and take a look. Although he didn't know what spirit medicine it was and what its effect was, it produced rainbows, so it must be of great value. After putting on his clothes, Luo Mu rushed to the place where the rainbow appeared. After about a moment, Luo Mu arrived at his destination. This is an ancient pond of medium size. The water in the pond is cold and emits chill. And in the center of the pond, there is a white lotus bud about to bloom. Heavenly water yuan lotus? Luo Mu searched in his mind, and related memories emerged. Tianshui Yuanlian is a third-grade spirit medicine. It usually feeds on the vitality of heaven and earth. When it matures, it will produce at least 6 lotus seeds. Each lotus seed is the essence of vitality. The effect of cultivation is far better than Xianxia. Not bad. Luo Mu's eyes brightened. It seems that his luck has turned recently. He can even encounter such a spiritual object. In this way, the cultivation resources of Spirit Sea Realm can be considered to have a place. However, it seems that Tianshui Yuanlian is not yet mature. It is estimated that it will take about 7 or 8 days. During this period, there will be rainbows every day, which cannot be concealed, and may attract other people. However, this place is already deep in the back mountain of the academy. There should not be many people. Roar! Just when Luo Mu was thinking, a dull roar sounded behind him. Luo Mu raised his eyebrows slightly. I almost forgot that in addition to people, the most common thing in the back mountain is monster. The spiritual objects of heaven and earth, for monsters, that cannot be ignored. Swish! Luo Mu drew his sword and slashed. The level 2 monster that had just approached was instantly split into 2. He had now stepped into the Spirit Sea, and could deal with level 3 monsters, so a mere level 2 monster was no problem. Fire Lion. Luo Mu approached and recognized the monster. The blood of the Fire Lion was more valuable, containing a strong fire element, and it was very valuable for a martial artist who practiced the fire element technique. Maybe we can use this as a guide and wait for the rabbit. Luo Mu's mouth corners raised. Most people would not dare to do this. After all, the back mountain was the monster's territory, and there were many of them. If they were attacked by a group of people, they would probably die because of this. But Luo Mu was naturally not afraid, as he was strong enough to deal with it. Chapter 45. Congratulations, brother, for breaking through to 30% of your sword power. Your strength has greatly increased. On the day of the grand ceremony, you will definitely be able to defeat Fang Tian and wipe out your shame. In the woods, 3 people walked out of the darkness. One of them was wearing a gray robe and carrying a long sword. He was full of powerful aura. Yes, Fang Tian just took advantage of the weapon. Brother, you now have 30% of your sword power. Not only can you easily defeat Fang Tian, but you also have a chance to break into the top 30. Another person clenched his fist and said heavily, for a long time, the top 30 of the grand ceremony has been occupied by the inner palace disciples, and the outer palace couldn't squeeze in. This also made the outer palace disciples often ridiculed and mocked by the inner palace. Top 30? Xia Yunbai lowered his eyes. He is now the recognized number 1 in the outer palace. Spirit Sea Realm 3rd layer. He is also one of the only outer palace disciples who has realized the great power of martial Tao. Although the 2 brothers are full of confidence in him, he is very clear about the strength of the inner palace monster. Some time ago, a person who was temporarily ranked 35th in the inner palace could defeat him, not to mention the ones ahead. Even if his sword power broke through, he didn't have absolute confidence to enter the top 30. Buzz. Suddenly, a rainbow light shot up into the sky in the distance, blooming and disappearing like fireworks. Xianxia, a junior brother shouted in surprise. The appearance of the rainbow phenomenon means that high-quality spirit medicine has appeared in the world ahead. Senior brother, maybe it's your chance. Another junior brother also said excitedly. Originally, I just came to the back mountain to kill some special monsters and practice some skills, but I didn't expect to meet Xianxia. Then I'll take your good words. Xia Yunbai also smiled. If it is spirit medicine that helps practice, then before the ceremony, I can still improve myself. Then the 3 of them rushed to the place where the rainbow appeared. At the ancient pond, there was no forest for a long time, and it was quite empty when I looked around. There were fallen old trees and monster corpses everywhere. The rich blood even dyed the soil under their feet blood red. When Xia Yunbai and the other 2 arrived here, they were all stunned on the spot, with shock in their eyes. What happened here? A junior brother swallowed his saliva and took a step back subconsciously. He was only at the 7th layer of the true acupoint realm. The monsters in front of him were basically starting at the 2nd level, and there were even 3rd levels. But now they were all lying on the ground. There was no life. Brother, look. Another junior brother pointed to the front, where there was an ancient pond. There was a white lotus in the center of the pond, shaking slightly. It was always emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. The lotus petals were constantly trembling, and it was obviously about to mature. Tianshui Yuanlian. It's Tianshui Yuanlian. The junior brother was surprised. Xia Yunbai was also immediately attracted. His breathing became hot. Outer palace disciples come from commoner families, not as rich as the royal nobles. The resources for cultivation are not so abundant. Many times you need to rely on yourself. This Tianshui Yuanlian is equivalent to his resource allocation for nearly a year. Wait, there seems to be someone beside the ancient pond. As soon as these words came out, Xia Yunbai's eyes moved immediately and then shrank slightly. Just now, He was attracted by the monster corpse and the Tianxue Yuanlian, and didn't notice that there was someone beside the ancient pond. It was a tall figure, with his back to them. He was wearing the clothes of an outer palace disciple, but now it was stained red with blood. The blue wind came slowly, and his black hair danced lightly. Although it was just a back view, for some reason, a sense of pressure emerged in his heart. Xia's senior brother, did this person kill all these monsters? The junior brother was a little scared. It should be. Xia Yunbai nodded. But there was no strange color on his face. Although there are many dead monsters here, even level 3, if I were here, I should be able to do it. Tianxue Yuanlian is too precious. He naturally couldn't give it up easily. There is no first-come, first-served principle for spiritual objects in heaven and earth, but only for those who are capable. What made him a little strange was, when did such a master appear in the outer palace? The other people in his impression should not be able to kill so many monsters by himself. I wonder what to call this junior brother. After thinking for a while, Xia Yunbai said, he is the third layer of Spirit Sea Realm, and this person is only the first layer. There is nothing wrong with calling him junior brother. The figure did not answer, still just standing with his hands behind his back. You guy. A junior brother felt despised, and took a step forward to defend Xia Yunbai. However, at the moment when this step fell, the figure seemed to wake up. He turned slightly. He glanced at the three people calmly. Boom. It is hard to describe what kind of eyes this is. It seemed to contain countless sword lights, like an endless river of saber chi, terrifying and domineering, sharp and fierce. Any splash of waves could chop themselves into pieces. The two junior brothers were so scared that they collapsed to the ground. Xia Yunbai instinctively felt the crisis and subconsciously wanted to use the sword force. But the sword force that used to follow his heart could not be controlled at all. It even shrank deep into the flesh. Xia Yunbai's pupils shrank suddenly. He sucked in a breath of cold air. As the current number 1 in the outer palace, the evil martial artist of the Spirit Sea Realm, how could he not know what this meant? Martial Dao suppression. His sword force was actually suppressed. If the attainments of the martial Dao are more than 30% different, then when facing each other, they will be suppressed for a short time. His sword force is already at the 30% level. That is to say, this person's sword force starts at least 60%. But how is it possible? 60% of the martial Dao trend. This is very rare in the inner palace, and can be counted on one's fingers. How can there be one among the outer palace? Disciples. Chapter 46. Please forgive me, junior brother. We'll leave right away. Xia Yunbai suddenly came to his senses. He quickly bowed, grabbed his two junior brothers, turned around and ran away. He didn't dare to stop until he had climbed over a dozen peaks. He leaned against the tree next to him, panting, and his body slowly slid down, finally sitting on the muddy ground. Senior brother, that guy is so scary. Just to look, I can't raise any thoughts of fighting him. Yeah, just now I felt like I was about to break apart. The two junior brothers were still in shock and were terrified. So far, I have never seen such a terrifying look. Senior brother, aren't you his opponent? The two junior brothers looked at Xia Yunbai. It was normal for me to be afraid. After all, I was just in the real acupoint realm, but senior brother was the first person in the outer palace, a strong man with 30% sword power. As a result, senior brother didn't seem to think about it, and turned around and took the two of them away, running away like flying. That speed was simply unprecedented. After hearing this, Xia Yunbai's cheeks flushed slightly. He was indeed shocked just now. Even his strongest trump card sword force was directly suppressed. How could he dare to stay there any longer? Although he was in the academy, the other party would not kill him. But he did not want to have a conflict and get hurt. After all, the academy ceremony was about to begin. He had to maintain his condition. No. Xia Yunbai shook his head. The two junior brothers looked at each other in surprise. Senior brother Xia was the first in the outer palace, but he would admit that he was not as good as him so directly. They had never fought before. My sword force was suppressed. Xia Yunbai was very direct, without hiding anything. Suppressed? The two of them took a breath of cold air. These two short words have a heavy weight. I remember that the teacher said that only when the martial Dao force differs by more than 30% will it be suppressed. Senior brother Xia's sword force is 30%, which means that the two of them showed shock in their eyes. More than 60%. It seems that our outer palace is also full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. There are such masters. Xia Yunbai rubbed his face and stood up. A look of joy began to emerge on his face. He didn't care about the title of the first in the outer palace. If someone was better than him, that would be the most worthy of joy. Because only by being better than him can he have the opportunity to enter the top 30, break the previous historical record of the outer palace, and wipe out the shame. This time, the academy ceremony will definitely be possible. Xia Yunbai raised his head slightly and clenched his fists. Seeing this, The two also reacted and their eyes became excited. Yes, with a full 60% of the sword power, let alone the top 30, the top 10 can be achieved. By the ancient pond, Luo Mu retracted his gaze. He just had some insights, so he fell into deep thought. Of course, he didn't completely give up his vigilance. So when someone approached, he noticed it. I didn't expect to meet someone with the great power of martial Tao. Luo Mu's eyes moved slightly, and his attainments are not low, a full 30%. However, in front of his 80%, no, now 90% sword power, it was still not enough, and he could suppress it directly within 2 or 3 breaths. During the 8 days of waiting for the Tianshui Yuanlian to mature, monsters were attracted every day. He did not waste it, and took this opportunity to practice the moves in the Wuxing Daojing. These moves are very exquisite, contains the truth of swordsmanship. Once thoroughly mastered, it will also be of great benefit to the growth of sword power. So his sword power attainment, after many efforts and critical hits, also increased to 90%. This person should be the kind of apex level in the Outer Palace. Luo Mu thought. Although he usually practices hard and does not know the specific situation of the Outer Palace, he probably still knows something. There are only 3 or 4 people in the Outer Palace who can comprehend the general trend of martial Tao, or even less, and 30%. I'm afraid he is the strongest one among them. A gust of wind came, and the Tianshui Yuanlian in the ancient pond began to tremble. Luo Mu retracted his thoughts. Moved to Tianshui Yuanlian. The practice of Spirit Sea Realm is mainly to absorb the essence of heaven and earth and improve the quality of true qi. So the essence of the essence of the essence, such as Tianshui Yuanlian, has a very good practice effect. It's almost mature. Luo Mu stared at it. He had been waiting for 8 days, and he didn't know how many monsters he had killed during this period. The 2 storage rings were almost full of materials. Just for this Tianshui Yuanlian. About 10 breaths later, the Tianshui Yuanlian finally matured completely, and the lotus petals stretched out, revealing the lotus pod inside. The lotus pod is like a jade platform, crystal clear and radiant. And on the lotus pod, there are a whole 9. Luo Mu was stunned, and then a look of surprise appeared on his face. Although Tianshui Yuanlian can produce up to 9 lotus seeds, the probability is very low. Generally speaking, there are about 6 or 7. 8 are very rare. Luo Mu didn't expect that this Tianshui Yuanlian actually had 9 seeds. It's really unstoppable when luck comes. I didn't think much about it. Luo Mu took out the jade box, quickly picked the lotus seeds, and put them in it for preservation. When the Tianshui Yuanlian matures, the lotus seeds must be picked immediately, otherwise the lotus seeds will gradually dissipate over time, turn into yuan qi again, and return to the world. 9 lotus seeds. I think they can support me to complete the cultivation path of Spirit Sea Realm, as long as the critical hit rate is higher. Luo Mu put the jade box away. His eyes were bright. Taking 1 lotus seed, even if it is a 10-fold critical hit, is equivalent to using 10. 9. That's 90. Even if he has average qualifications and a low absorption rate, he can still rely on quantity to pile up. It's time to go back. Luo Mu turned around. There are still 4 days before the academy ceremony. During these 4 days, stay in the academy, practice, and adjust your state. Chapter 47. As time approaches, Changel Academy is becoming more and more lively. The academy ceremony is not just a grand event of the academy, but also attracts the attention of the entire Changel 7 counties. Many noble families, including princes and nobles, have come to the academy. Prepare to watch the ceremony. But it is different from the past. This time, a real big shock came. Have you heard that the sovereign clan is coming to this ceremony? Of course I heard, and it's not just the sovereign clan, but the 9th prince of His Majesty. Hiss, the 9th prince. Shocks rose in the academy. The 9th prince, the 9th son of His Majesty, has a status that can be imagined. How noble it is. Changel Academy, located at the end of the 7 major academies, is located in the extreme south of the dynasty, far away from the imperial capital, so usually no sovereign clan is willing to come. But this time, not only is it the sovereign clan, but it is also the 9th prince. Then I have to perform well. Try to be valued by the 9th prince. You must be dreaming. In our academy, only those who rank high are qualified to enter the eyes of the 9th prince. The words are rough, but the truth is true. Many people fell silent. If you can join the 9th prince, you can imagine how brilliant your future will be. Titles, resources, etc. are all simple. Don't consider the 9th prince. There are other princes, especially the blood-brave marquis. If you can serve under him, you will not be much weaker than the 9th prince. Someone said. Yes, the name of the blood-brave marquis is not limited to our Changel 7 counties. Even in the imperial capital, it is very famous and has been summoned by the current emperor. Inner palace. Dad. The voice was full of surprise. Chung Chingman pushed open the door and saw a familiar figure. He was nearly 10 feet tall, burly, with a square face, thick eyebrows and big eyes. There is a hideous scar on his face, from the right temple to the left chin. Although he has hidden his cultivation, he still exudes a terrifying aura. Like an ancient beast, he has only temporarily restrained his claws and fangs. Once exposed, the world will surely change color. Manner. Cheng Tiansong smiled slightly. I thought you would come on the day of the ceremony. Cheng Qingman approached, very excited. My good daughter will attend this ceremony, so I have to come early. Otherwise, if I am late, I will be nagged for the rest of my life. Cheng Tiansong said with a smile. You are sensible. Cheng Qingman raised her chin slightly. By the way, I heard from Uncle Gong that you made friends with a demon from the outer palace, and you realized the trend of martial Tao in the true state. Cheng Tiansong said. Yeah. Speaking of Luo Mu, Cheng Qingman nodded continuously. His name is Luo Mu. His talent is extremely terrifying, your daughter. I rarely really admire a person. He is the only one. I didn't expect that such a person could appear among the outer palace disciples. Cheng Tiansong said slowly. He realized the great trend of martial Tao in the true acupoint realm. If it is a bloodline, it may be understandable, because it can inherit the power of the ancestors. But for the children of ordinary people, it is a bit exaggerated. Even when he was young, he couldn't do it, and he barely realized it when he arrived in the spirit sea realm. You see. Cheng Qingman looked at Cheng Tiansong with some hope. Cheng Tiansong smiled. How could he not know Cheng Qingman's thoughts? It's nothing more than promoting and pulling him into his own team. Do you think a demon like him still needs the support of his father? Cheng Tiansong shook his head. Gold is destined to shine, for example. How many big figures came to the academy ceremony this time? Even the current 9th prince came. If he performs well, he will have a chance to ascend to heaven. What I mean is that I asked you to meet him earlier. Aren't you short of people? Cheng Qingman said. What I lack is people, and Luo Mu, as you said, is a latent dragon. Once he emerges from the abyss, he will surely soar thousands of miles, and it is impossible for him to stay with me for a long time. Cheng Tiansong patted Cheng Qingman on the shoulder. Hearing this, Cheng Qingman opened her mouth, but couldn't say anything. It seems to be the truth. Junior brother Luo's talent is too exaggerated, and his cultivation speed is terrifyingly fast. Perhaps in a few years, he can catch up with his father. You did a good job. Making friends with such a demon in advance is beneficial to our Cheng family without any harm. Cheng Tiansong said with a smile. Hee. Cheng Qingman didn't think about it anymore, and a smile appeared on her pretty face. By the way, I heard that the 9th prince is here too. I didn't expect that a noble from the sovereign clan would come to our Chang'e 7 counties. Because that one is almost dying. Cheng Tiansong said casually and directly. Hearing this, Cheng Qingman's pupil shrank slightly. She was very smart, so how could she not understand the meaning of this? She also instantly understood why the 9th prince would come to Chang'e 7 counties. It turned out that, for a moment, Cheng Qingman seemed to smell the smell of a storm. A world of great strife is inevitable. Cheng Tiansong turned sideways and looked at the sky. The clouds there were so red, like fire. Chapter 48. Dong. The ancient bell sounded in the depths of the academy, like ripples, spreading to the surroundings and far away. This is the Tao bell. It is not an ordinary morning bell. It will only ring when something important happens. And today is the day when the academy ceremony begins. Bang, bang, bang. Doors were pushed open one by one. They were all excited disciples of the academy. They were full of energy and improved their condition to the best. For most disciples of the academy, the ceremony can be said to be a turning point in their fate. As long as they perform well, they will be valued and then receive key training. Welcome a new life. Dong. The Tao bell kept ringing, awakening the deaf. Everyone began to walk towards the ceremony square of the inner palace. In the room, Luo Mu slowly opened his eyes. He exhaled a breath of turbid air. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. As expected of Tianshui Yuanlian, he rushed to the Spirit Sea Realm 3rd layer in just 4 days of practice. His strength has improved a lot. Has it started? Luo Mu stood up and washed a little. He picked up a black robe and put it on. A handsome and resolute young man suddenly appeared in the bronze mirror. Not bad. Luo Mu nodded. Then he turned around and left the room. The sun outside was bright and dazzling, and it fell on the small road in front of the door like a golden light. Inner Palace Square. After the blessing of the formation, it has been expanded a lot. It is enough to accommodate more than 10 groups of disciples fighting at the same time. There are high platforms all around, which are specially prepared for big shots. Further down, there are tens of thousands of spectators. Representatives of the aristocratic families from the 7 counties of Chang'e will sit here. At this time, it is not full, but it is almost full. Even with the formation to weaken the sound, it seems a bit noisy. Master Chen, I heard that your son was ranked 77th on the Hidden Dragon list some time ago. It's really a cause for celebration. Elderly, you are too kind. It's just 77th. It's not worth mentioning. It's not worth mentioning. I heard that this time, not only did a sovereign clan come, but he is also the current 9th prince. When will the nobles of the sovereign clan be willing to come to our remote place? Don't underestimate yourself. Although our Chang'e 7 counties are far away from the imperial capital, our strength is not weak, okay? It's worth the attention of the sovereign clan, such as the blood-brave Marquis Cheng Tiansong. When it comes to Cheng Tiansong, many people's eyes suddenly showed admiration. Born a commoner, but to be able to reach the current position, it is really beyond the reach of ordinary people. During the conversation, more and more disciples have come to the inner palace square. They all showed shock. Such a big scene is really rare. In the audience, they are all representatives of various families, and even those in power. And those on the high platform are even more heavyweights. Each high platform represents a royal family. That's the Anshan King of Fengdu County. Someone pointed out. The Anshan King is the oldest conferred king family in Fengdu County, and it is hereditary. There are no restrictions. Even if the descendants are incompetent, they can still inherit the title of king and enjoy endless glory. However, the Anshan kingly family has always been low-key and basically never shows up. Only at grand events such as the Academy ceremony will they send people to attend. Fuguang King, Hanlin King, Liang Marquis, Zhongdan Marquis, Wuyang Marquis. Everyone looked at them one by one, slightly inhaled a breath of cold air. I didn't expect that there are so many royal families in the 7 counties of Chang'e. However, the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign has been established for tens of thousands of years. This number is actually not that large. It is said that anyone around the imperial capital could be a royal family. The people who came should be representatives of various families. Or the head of the family. Head of the family. It sounds like he has great power, but in fact, he is responsible for handling daily affairs in each family. The real core has no time to waste on these trivial matters. Therefore, I can't feel a particularly strong aura from these people, even a little bland. Look, Li Jinni is here. Someone suddenly shouted excitedly. Not far away, a Taoist figure came, carrying a long sword and calm eyes. He has long brown hair. His eyes are also brown, quite different from ordinary people. Li Jinni, currently the #1 evildoer in the inner palace. Half a year ago, he had no rivals. Finally, he chose to retreat. No one knows how strong he is now. As he walked along, his disciples kept making way for him and let him stand in the center of the square. Li Jinni looked indifferent. He didn't even bother to look at the people around him. Half a year ago, he was already invincible in the inner palace, and he concentrated on studying swordsmanship until today. Seemingly noticed something. Li Jinni looked at a high platform. That was the direction of the Anshan kingly family. A rare smile appeared on his face. He sensed his father's presence. This time, he must defeat everyone as always, to vindicate his father's lineage. Li Jinni, long time no see. A voice sounded behind him. I saw a young man in green clothes coming, also carrying a sword on his back, with his arms folded. There was a blade of grass in his mouth. Li Jinni did not answer. It seemed that no one could arouse his interest. The young man didn't care. It seemed that he had gotten used to it. Be careful. I have made great progress now. If you are careless, you may lose to me. Huang Yuntian said faintly. He is currently the second in the inner palace. Li Jinni still did not answer, which made Huang Yuntian a little helpless. Although he had long been accustomed to it, he was still unhappy after repeatedly hitting a wall. Have you heard that there seems to be a guy in the outer palace who is more evil than you? He has realized the great trend of martial Dao in the true acupoint realm. Huang Yuntian's eyes turned. Hearing this, Li Jinni opened his eyes immediately, his eyebrows slightly raised. He has been in seclusion, but he has never heard of it. He can be said to be one of the most outstanding disciples since the establishment of the academy. He has just stepped into the spirit sea realm and realized the sword trend. But the true acupoint realm, this is something he can't do. Seeing this, Huang Yuntian's mouth corners suddenly raised. He knew that this news would definitely cause waves in Li Jinni's mood. But you don't have to worry, it's just that he realized it earlier, and now he is probably still hovering in the true acupoint realm. Even if he reaches the spirit sea realm, the attainments of martial Dao Dashi can't be compared with ours. Huang Yuntian said with a smile. P.S. Just got back. Chapter 49. Now his sword power has reached 60%. If that disciple dares to appear in front of him, he will probably not be able to use his sword power and will be suppressed by him. As for Li Jinni, half a year ago, he had 60% sword power. Now it is unknown how high it has reached. The most important thing is that the Anshan kingly family is not an ordinary royal family, but aristocracy, born with blood, can inherit and use the power of ancestors. Although he just said that he could defeat Li Jinni, it was just talk. There are more and more disciples in the square. And the same is true on the high platform. Representatives of many royal families have arrived, and the high-level officials of the academy have also taken their seats one by one. Wang Sanjiu, are you ready for this grand ceremony? There are only a few people left in the outer palace. A middle-aged man in a white robe said with a smile. At the same time, he looked at the high platform not far away. That is where the elders of the outer palace are located. Xianxia, you said it so early, be careful to get slapped in the face. Wang Sanjiu snorted coldly. If Luo Mu were here, he would definitely recognize that this was the elder of the Kangwu Tower. How about a bet? Xianxia said. What do you want to bet on? Wang Sanjiu was not to be outdone. This is 4th grade spirit medicine, profound king ginseng. Xianxia took out a jade box and placed it on the table. It's just 4th grade. I have plenty. Wang Sanjiu also took out one. 4th grade spirit medicine, Zhongling Hua. Hearing this, Xianxia's eyes lit up slightly. The technique he was currently practicing required a Zhongling Hua. It seems that I can get some unexpected gains in this ceremony, Xianxia said leisurely. The implication seemed to be that he had already secured this spirit medicine. Humph. Wang Sanjiu said coldly. During this period, he naturally heard about Luo Mu's news. He didn't expect that the young man who had only met twice at the beginning had grown to such a height. He realized the great trend of martial Tao in the true acupoint realm. It was really exaggerated. Even in the inner palace, there is no one who can match him. It's a pity that Luo Mu has too little time to grow. He is probably still lingering in the true acupoint realm. Even if he barely reaches the Spirit Sea realm, he can't deal with those opponents in the inner palace who have entered the Spirit Sea early. But no matter what, he is definitely in the top 100. Buzz. The world suddenly shook. A beam of light, like a divine bridge, extended from the depths of the academy. It landed on the largest platform in the square. When the beam of light dissipated, several figures appeared on the platform. It was the great elder of the academy. In the academy, many high-level people are usually elusive. They can't be seen or touched at all. Only at this kind of grand event can they appear. Behind the great elder, there is also a young man in a python robe. His face is handsome and noble. His skin is whiter than snow. If it weren't for the obvious Adam's apple, I really thought it would be a woman. Greetings to the great elder. Everyone in the academy stood up immediately, bowed and saluted, including the representatives of the noble families and the disciples below. The voice was like a wave, echoing in the square. The great elder, the martial Tao expert second, only to the palace master in the academy. What is his specific cultivation level? Not many people know. No need to be polite, everyone. The elder still looked very kind. Kind eyes. His white beard was so long that it almost fell to the ground. The palace master has some insights and is practicing in the outer world, so this ceremony will be presided over by me. The elder looked around the whole audience. Those who looked at him lowered their heads subconsciously. It was a sense of oppression that could not be described in words. It seemed that if they looked at each other for one more second, their spirits would be torn apart and turned into nothingness. Luo Mu felt the same way. What kind of cultivation is this? Luo Mu was shocked. Xindan? Definitely more than that. That should be the opening of the earth, or even above the opening of the earth. In addition, this is His Royal Highness the 9th Prince who came from the imperial capital. The elder introduced. The 9th Prince immediately stepped forward and appeared in everyone's sight. The 9th Prince. Many people were excited. Sovereign clan. How many people can hardly see him in their lifetime, let alone a sovereign clan blood of the 9th Prince's level? Is this the 9th Prince? So pretty, no, so handsome. Some female disciples immediately showed their crazy looks. They wished they could immediately pledge their love to him and have many children. Hello, His Royal Highness the 9th Prince. The voices rose again. No need to be polite. I have often heard that Chang'e is a land where many people are good at fighting. Now I see that it is indeed worthy of the name. With you and the Great Zhou Divine Sovereign, the southern border can be stable all the year round. The 9th Prince smiled slightly. This made everyone smile immediately, especially those aristocratic families. Words may not be true, but good words are always pleasing to the ear. It's him. Luo Mu was startled. Feeling familiar, he quickly remembered. It was the young man I had looked at in Xianxia City before. At that time, I felt that he had an extraordinary temperament. I didn't expect that he was the current 9th Prince. Fate is also wonderful. It's almost time. Let's start the ceremony. The elder looked up and waved his hand without choosing the exact time. As soon as the words fell, the atmosphere suddenly became heated. Whether it was the noble family or the disciples, they were all ready to fight. This ceremony was completely different from the past. Those who ranked at the top in the past were just rewarded by the academy, or entered the army and started directly as a lieutenant. Lieutenant is the rank second only to general. It is already very high. But if you can get under the command of the 9th Prince, then the future will not be as simple as a lieutenant or a general. Conferred marquis, conferred king, none of them is impossible. In a dynasty that has been established for nearly tens of thousands of years, all kinds of resources have long been occupied. Ordinary people want to climb up. They must seize the opportunity. On the high platform, the ninth prince's eyes wandered. Who are you looking for, your highness? The elder glanced at him. Just take a look. The ninth prince smiled. It's a pity that there are too many disciples below, and he can't find the person he has been thinking about for a long time. That is Li Jinni from the Anshan kingly family. Whether it is qualifications or talents, he is second to none. He is currently the number one in my Changel Academy. The elder said. Yes. The ninth prince nodded, but he just took a casual look. Li Jinni's talent and strength are indeed good, but he can't forget the knife in Xianxia City. Chapter 50. The true acupoint realm has realized the general trend of martial Dao. Even the monsters in the imperial capital, few people can do it. And those who can do it are basically bloodline people. Bloodline is an advantage, but it is also a shackle. What he wants most now is the monster among ordinary people. Maybe he started late, but he can go further in the future. Soon, the ceremony officially began. All the processes were carried out in an orderly manner. First is the lottery. 1 on 2, 3 on 4, etc. Regardless of cultivation. When the true acupoint meets the spirit sea, it can only admit bad luck. This approach has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that some true acupoints can pick up leaks, resulting in a higher ranking, so as not to miss the top. The disadvantage is that if you encounter the spirit sea, you will basically lose. The Academy believes that luck is also an extremely important part of martial Dao practice. Boom. After the lottery, the square shook and the formation flowed, dividing the square into 20 areas. Each area seems to contain a lot of secrets. It doesn't look big, but once you enter it, it is boundless. The power of the formation. Luo Mu's eyes moved slightly. There are many schools of martial Dao practice, and the formation is not weak. I have to study it carefully when I have time in the future. It doesn't require to be very profound. At least I have to be proficient. Otherwise, if I meet someone who is good at formation, I'm afraid I will be trapped in it and can't get out for the rest of my life. The lot he drew was 800. It means it is the 400th group. Some wait. There are at least 5,000 disciples who came to participate in the ceremony today. All of them are above the true acupoint. The body tempering realm will not join in the fun. Luo Mu didn't wait around. He watched all the games on the field carefully. The martial arts of the Academy are dazzling. I don't have the opportunity to see them on weekdays, but how can I miss it now? A game is over. Luo Mu nodded slightly. I didn't expect there is such a wonderful sword technique. He watched a match of the true acupoint realm, where the inner palace swordsman fought against a gunman. Although the swordsman's cultivation was average, his sword technique was exquisite. At least profound rank middle grade. With this sword technique, he directly defeated his opponent. Ding! You watched a battle of the true acupoint realm, and you have a feeling, triggering a critical strike, and gaining 50 times the reward. In his mind, the system prompt sounded. For a while, a lot of insights poured into his mind. The many details of the swordsman's sword use were imprinted in his mind like inscriptions. He even felt that he could rely on this to deduce the corresponding sword technique. In addition, the sword force also increased a little. Is this okay? Luo Mu was stunned. Watching others fight is also considered cultivation. No, it is definitely not counted if you just watch it, but you use your brain and keep thinking and studying in your mind. How can it not count? Thinking of this, Luo Mu suddenly became excited, found a new way to practice. Then he immediately focused his attention, watched every battle, especially those with swords. The swordsmanship used by these people was completely different from his, and naturally contained a new swordsmanship truth. Once he comprehended it, he would definitely be able to improve his swordsmanship. His swordsmanship has now reached 90%. Perhaps through this ceremony, he can directly improve to the state of 100% perfection. Time passed little by little, and one group after another of competitions also ended. Overall, the inner palace still has a clear advantage. At the same level, outer palace disciples basically lose when they meet inner palace disciples. There is no way to deal with this. Inner palace disciples come from large families, even royal families, and enjoy good training conditions when they are born. In addition to the training of the inner palace, naturally outstanding, and outer palace disciples are either absolute civilians or small families like Luo Mu. Can't compare. Of course, there are also those who defeat inner palace disciples, but they are few and far between. Ha ha ha, Wang Sanjiu. It seems that I have to accept this profound King Ginseng. Xianxia said very happily. Do you want to surrender and lose half? I can only take half of you. It's only a few groups? Don't be happy too early. Wang Sanjiu said coldly. Tsk Tisk, I'm helping you stop the loss in time. You really don't understand good people. Xianxia raised the corner of his mouth. Hee. Wang Sanjiu sneered. Although he said so, he was also anxious in his heart. Now more than 300 groups have passed. But too many people were eliminated, far more than in previous years. If this continues, there may be only a single digit left in the end. That would be too embarrassing. In the future, if someone with a caring heart gives a little suggestion, the palace master may really reduce the resources of the outer palace. The 400th group. Inner Palace Qinlongyu against Outer Palace Luo Mu. A voice rang out in the square. Although there were many voices at the same time, many people still heard it. Luo Mu? Is it that Luo Mu? He was a little stunned and asked. In the outer palace, there is only one person named Luo Mu. Who else can it be? It's finally his turn. Many outer palace disciples became excited. Now in the outer palace, the two words Luo Mu have long been well known. It is also the only confidence they can show off and debate with the inner palace disciples. Are you happy? I don't feel happy. Someone poured cold water on him. The opponent is Qinlongyu from the inner palace, a demon from the Spirit Sea third layer. Hearing this, everyone's faces changed immediately. Spirit Sea realm. In the realm of the true acupoint, Luo Mu is definitely invincible, but if the opponent is from the Spirit Sea realm and is the Spirit Sea realm third layer, it's hard to say. After all, it's a higher realm. Damn it, how can my luck be so bad? I met a Spirit Sea realm in the first round, a disciple said bitterly. Now Luo Mu is almost recognized by the outer palace as a disciple who can enter the top 100. If he was defeated in the first round in advance, it would be a heavy loss. Oh, it seems that your hope has become even slimmer. Xianxia laughed. Wang Sanjiu ignored him. His hands under his sleeves clenched unconsciously. How can my luck be so bad? There are so many true acupoint realms that I can't meet, but I just met a Spirit Sea realm. And it's Qinlongyu from the Spirit Sea realm third layer. Although Qinlongyu did not realize the great trend of martial Dao, his axe skills were still very good. The crushing of the realm was enough to wipe out Luo Mu's advantage. Luo Mu. On the high platform, the ninth prince's originally calm expression changed instantly. He looked down directly, trying to find. And other senior officials of the academy also looked down. Recently, this disciple named Luo Mu in the outer palace can be said to be famous. Not to say that everyone knows it, but it's almost the same. It is indeed incredible that he realized the great trend of martial Dao in the true acupoint realm, and I don't know what perfected being looks like.
Thank you for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card or directly on my channel. As always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments. I'd also appreciate your thoughts on the ad experience in this video. Let me know in the comments below.